90.5.
He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer and the champion of liberty, of human equality. Let's salute him, fellow Ghanaians, the nation's founder, Sajifo Kwame Nkrumah. May God bless him, Ghana showboy, Africa's great son, Sajifo Dr. Nkrumah.
Ago when you come with Makasa Kakra, and when you come when Tiam Kakra, Menkasapi. Damabara Makade Bakans Babukakran and Yamakan Fancy. At long last, the battle has ended. And thus, Ghana, your beloved country, is free forever. And here again, I want to take the opportunity to thank the chiefs and people of this country, the youth, the farmers, the women, who have so nobly fought and won this battle. Also, I want to thank the valiant ex-servicemen who have so cooperated with me in this mighty task of freeing our country from foreign rule and imperialism. And as I pointed out at our party conference at Sorbonne, I made it quite clear that from now on today,
I love Radio Gold 90.5.
we must change our attitudes, our minds. We must realize that from now on we are no more a colonial but a free and independent people. But also, as I pointed out, that also entails hard work. I am depending upon the millions of the country, the chiefs and people, to help me to reshape the destiny of this country. We are prepared to build it up and make it a nation that will be respected by every other nation in the world. We know we are going to have difficult beginnings, but again, I'm relying upon your support. I'm relying upon your hard work. Seeing you in these thousands, it doesn't matter how far my eye goes. I can see that you are here in your millions. And my last warning to you is that you ought to stand firm behind us so that we can prove to the world that when the African is given a chance, he can show to the world that he's somebody. We shall no more go back to sleep anymore. Today, from now on, there is a new African in the world. That new African is ready to fight his own battle and show that, after all, the black man is capable of managing his own affairs. We are going to demonstrate to the world, to the other nations, young as we are, that we are prepared to lay our own foundation. As I said in the assembly just a minute ago, I made it point that we are going to say that we create our own African personality and identity. It's the only way in which we can show the world that we are ready for our own battle. But today, may I call upon you all that at this great day, Let us all remember that nothing in the world can be done unless it has the purported support of God. We have done the battle, and we again rededicate ourselves not only in the struggle to emancipate other territories in Africa. Our independence is meaningless unless it is linked up with the total liberation of the African continent. Let us now, fellow Ghanaians, let us now ask for God's blessing. And for only 2 seconds, in your thousands and millions, I want to ask you to pause only for 1 minute and give thanks to Almighty God for having led us through obstacles, difficulties, imprisonments, hardship and suffering to have brought us to the end of our struggle today.
You're welcome to Alhaji and Alhaji. Today is Saturday, the 23rd day of December 2017. And like I said, in some 8 days, we will enter a new year. And I want to know how prepared you are for the new year. I'm sure you might be taking stock now and of the year 2017. What has been your ups, and I would also want to know those that have been your downs as well. We have been with you all year through, discussing, bringing to you all the information that you need to know right here from Monday through to Sunday. And it's a great joy that we're both ending the year for me, I will say on a good note, but I don't know for you. Okay, so this is Alhaji and Alhaji, the mother of all talk shows, is live on Radio Gold 90.5 FM every Saturday. And remember, we're also live on GFM Radio all the way in London, on Sekbele 104.3 FM in Lekbe, on Shine 96.9 FM in Akachi, on Lukusi Radio 96.1 FM in Vego Lokwati, on Radio Kbandu 102.3 FM, on Global FM 105.1 FM in Ho, on SAPS Online, Radio Online, on Radio Silver 92.3 FM. For those of you on Android phones, you can also tune in on your tuning application, Radio Gold 90.5 FM. Remember, you can join the show on our WhatsApp line. I've always admonished you not to be a passive listener, but of course an active one. And so you can join the show on our WhatsApp line 0233-995-905 and the 0233-995-905. I will take you through the headlines for this morning. And then when we come back, we'll probably introduce the discussants for this morning's show. And then we can proceed to look at the issues for this morning. The Ghanaian Times this morning. My name is Peter Bamfo. The Ghanaian Times this morning says, let's unite to develop our country. Clergy appeals to Ghanaians. Government provides 300 vehicles, 200 bikes for crime combat during the holiday season across the country. Former NCA board chairman, 3 others before court. The Mirror says expired food items back on the shelves, and so be on the lookout, especially if you have to go and buy those canned foods. Please be on the lookout. The expired foods are back on the market again, and so we all must be each other's keeper. Our day for journalists at 22nd GJA Awards, and Xmas homilies from the clergy. The Spectator says decorative lights can cause fire. That's according to the Ghana National Fire Service. Top musician Storm Quayle for Xmas. We wish, and the Spectator is also wishing all its readers Merry Christmas. Finally, I have the Daily Graphic, which says President launches Operation Calm Life. Police gets 500 vehicles to enforce the law. 5 former government officials in court charged with loss of $4 million. Xmas provides opportunity for hopes in future. That's according to Mr. Joseph Sian Ejapon. He's the CEO of the Jospon Group of Companies. Christian leaders calls for love for one another during Xmas. These are all stories on the front page of the Daily Graphic newspaper. So those are the headlines for this morning. Now we will be looking at very important issues this morning, and the show is going to be on now through to midday. This morning we're looking at the way the minority in parliament blocked the 6 million Ghana cedi budget allocation to the office of the senior minister Yao Safo. Meanwhile, the Ministry for Special Development Initiative, we're told, has also presented a very outrageous budget which has attracted a lot of public outcry and outrage, both on mainstream media and of course on social media. We'd also look at the Millennium Excellence Foundation's Ghana Expatriate Business Awards, known as GIBA, and the charges of $100,000 for seating with the president, and the spillover, of course, of Carlos Ahinkre's exchange with Honorable Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa. This morning, we will have Dr. David Percy. He's a student of history. Lawyer Godwin Eduji Tamaklo is a deputy Greater Accra Regional Youth Organizer of the NDC. Mutala Mohammed, we're expecting him to also join us. He's a former Deputy Minister for Trade and Industry. We will have Mr. Kwesi Pratt Jr. pass through briefly. He's the managing editor of the Insight News paper. And of course, Sameh Jemfi is a member of the NDC's communications team. They are yet to arrive. But we'll be back to begin the conversation. Remember not to touch that dial, because we have a lot of information to give you today before the year ends. Remember, this is the last of Alhaji and Alhaji for the year 2017, and so do not attempt to miss it at all. Okay, so lawyer Godwin Eduji Tamaklo has joined us, and we will kickstart the conversation. We're looking at the unfortunately, yesterday I was called senior minister. How the senior minister's budgetary allocation was thrown off board, and the fact that this week the one other issue that has attracted a lot of attention of the public has been the budget that was presented by the Ministry for Special Development Initiative. Who is to blame? People are asking. I'm sure Honorable Eduji Tamaklo will give us some perspective. Eduji.
Yes, my brother Koku Peter, I do not want to ask from you whether you came from the house straight to the studio.
I did.
Wherever
I did. If
because it appears you are in a pullover.
He's always full of mischief. So,
oh no, because unless of course it's a question of me developing cataract, I can see you in pullover.
I have no doubt.
And I'm wondering. First of all, I need to use this platform quickly to say Merry Christmas to the wonderful listeners of Radio Gold, the faithfuls who have kept faith with this particular platform, the Alhaji and Alhaji platform. This year, has been quite eventful. For the first time, we saw Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo take one of the most draconian measures against free speech in the Fourth Republic. One would wonder why a man who has been variously touted and acclaimed as a human rights activist and a fighter of same will take a decision to close down over 130 radio stations over matters that clearly, if you look at the NCA Act and the various regulations, clearly the NCA was in error, for which reason they are now claiming to be giving amnesties and what have you. So quite clearly, one would have thought that our president, who is claimed to have fought for human rights and the respect of press freedom and plurality of say, will be the last person to take such a decision, at least through the agencies operating under him, to frustrate the dissemination of information to the good people of Ghana. But it's obvious the reason why the president would want to do that. It is beginning to be clear that they are cooking a lot of deals. Stinking deals. For which reason they do not want the good people of Ghana to know. Let me also say that a Merry Christmas once again to the entire regional executives of the NDC, Greater Accra, particularly Chairman Adekuka, his vice, my own mother, Sikanate, my boss, Ashon, and all the regional executive, Kwashi, and the others. My hard-working constituency youth organizers, Kofi NDC, Alhaji, Lasse, and all the various Emmanuel Sogbe and others who are doing the best in their various constituencies to get the NDC. Then branch youth organizers, because they are actually the legs of the party, the nucleus of the party. So I want to use this platform to wish all of you Merry Christmas. I want to single out some individuals also. Dr. Valerie Sawyer, he knows I'm a rebel, but he still loves me. And very great people that I've worked, my own boss, Dr. Dominic Hayini, who is also the MP for Boga East, for the great work he's doing. The minority leader, the entire minority leadership, Honorable Kwame Agboja, Isaac Adongo, Ato Forsen. It's been wonderful. In fact, let me say that this particular minority reminds me of the minority led by Honorable Bagben. It's been fantastic. And I want to give all of you a stand up. Congratulations for a good work done. And keeping this government is to on the fire of accountability. Ujano Eshomo. Once again, Merry Christmas to all of you. And our friends and what have you for keeping us and keeping your friendship. Now, on the vast issues before us today, Minority in Parliament blocks 6 million budget allocation to the Office of Senior Minister. The incompetence of this NPP administration has assumed a legendary position, and it's frightening. Very frightening. Never in the history of this republic have we seen this level of incompetence like we are seeing today. Look, my brother Piero, on the 27th day of February 2017, Executive Instrument 28 or EI 28, and I read, in the exercise of the powers conferred on the President under Section 11 of the Civil Service Act 1993, PNDC Law 327. This instrument is made this 27th day of February 2017. Ministries of the Civil Service, and they quote and list all of them. In all, it is 28. It reads as follows, and it's important to make this point that Under President John Dramani Mahama, he operated with the Civil Service Ministry's Instrument 2013, CI1, EI1. Then it was amended to make it EI81 and further amended to EI132. And then it says signed Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Date of Gazette notification 28th February 2017. Now, this EI set out all the ministries operating under Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, and there are 28 in all. Nowhere in this instrument made by Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo himself, accomplished lawyer, do you find the office of senior minister in it? There's no such office. Now the question we need to ask ourselves is, if there is no office backed by statute or any executive instrument or EI or LI, on what basis did the cabinet of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, made up of 19 cabinet ministers, together with the MPP chairman and general secretary, sat in cabinet, agreed to give 6 million Ghana cedis to an entity without any legal backing? It didn't end there. The matter went before the economic management team headed by Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, who says NDC people do not read. He, as the chair of the economic management team, looked at the budget allocation to the office of senior minister without any legal backing and approved of same. It was taken to parliament. The majority in parliament okayed it until Honorable Atoforsin and others said, no, this is not backed by law. We will not. So it was when he, together with Honorable Haruna Idrisu, the minority leader, objected to the allocation of 6 million Ghana cedis to the office of Osafo Mafo without any legal backing whatsoever, unknown entity. Then now, the majority leader said that no, the very EI that came to parliament for 21 days had no such office in it. So now the majority leader must eat his humble pie and associate himself with the legal objection raised by the minority to say that yes, he feels that, and therefore the budgetary allocation ought to be withdrawn. Now, what is curious is that the office occupied by Nanaya Osafo Mafo has been drawing money on the consolidated fund since the time he became the minister and was approved by parliament. If the ministry was not recognized by the very EI passed by the president, on what basis was he spending taxpayers' money? Because in the 2017 budget, allocations were made to him. So he had been operating an illegal structure and had been drawing public funds. It is this public funds that he was drawing that emboldened him to go out there that we will prosecute NDC appointees. Today that it is so manifest that he, Osafo Mafo, had been operating in an illegal squatter office. Tomorrow we are serving notice that he will also be charged or possibly be made to account for all the monies he had expended when the very office is occupying has no legal backing whatsoever. But you see, what is even more curious, beyond the law, beyond the legality, is the appropriateness of the 6 million Ghana cedis allocation. Let me say that my brother, who at least in our 2 encounters came in late, just came. Honorable Mutala, Comrade Mutala, may I acknowledge your presence? Thank you.
I hope you are not distorting your own thought process.
Not at all.
I hope so.
Now, for the president and Nanaya Osafo Mafo, the economic management team headed by Mahamudu Bawumia. And when you meet the NPP people, they say, oh, Bawumia is our next presidential candidate, and then Nanado is not going again. So Nanado is projecting him to take over from him. So anything Nanado does, yes, sir, ma, sir. What, like I was saying, is curious is the 6 million Ghana cedis allocation to one man. And do you know that the office he lives or stays or works in has only 10 staffs? So the ministry were told when Nanado paraded him like a normal identification parade and told the good people of Ghana that ministry is to coordinate the economic ministries. One will find out, what in God's name would you be doing with 6 million Ghana cedis? Effectively 500,000 Ghana cedis every month. This is serious. And you see, I am getting worried. The good people of Ghana must rise up immediately. And it is getting dangerous. Look, a ministry made up of Nanaya Osafo alone with 10 people. Every month their expenses or expenditure is 500,000 Ghana cedis. 5 billion cedis. A year, when you do the permutation, it comes up to what? 6 million Ghana cedis. What wrong have we done? What wrong? So I am saying that beyond the legality, there was no justifiable basis for allocating 6 million Ghana cedis to the office solely occupied by Nanaya Osafo. In any case, if he is coming to do monitoring and evaluation, we have a substantive minister for monitoring and evaluation, Honorable Dr. Akoto Osei. If he is coming to do planning, we have a substantive minister for planning, Honorable Jambafo, Professor. If it's about the economic Ministry of Finance, Kenoforiata is there. So if you look at that office, it is either an ex-gratia office for Nanaya Osafo because he exited the previous NPP administration so early, because of all this Macmillan and what have you issues, the stadium contract and all those matters. And so therefore, it is beginning to appear as an avenue to create. No, this time they are not creating. They are only looting and sharing. And it is getting worrying. Look, Pierrot, I have decided to interrogate the things in that budget. The things in the budget. It doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. And the people of Ghana must reject it on the point of law and in substance. Because there's no justifiable basis. Unless, of course, it's a platform for ways and means. What is national security doing? Why in the name of God Almighty would Nanado Dankwa Akufo-Addo, a man who promised, I am coming to protect the public purse? Nanado, we are serving you notice, and notice is hereby served, that we shall be citizens. We will not be spectators. We will not. And some of us, we have said it and we say it again. We have dedicated ourselves to this cause. We will make sure that we will hold your feet to the table of accountability and you account for it. Look, if Nanado Dankwa Akufo-Addo, the man who made the EI himself, did not know that the office has no legal backing, but still decided together with Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia and all the members of the economic management team to still make an allocation of 6 million Ghana cedis to that office, is the mark of incompetence. Do you know that one of the grounds on which a president can be removed, stated misbehavior, incompetence, if it's any other country, on the sole ground of this, our president ought to be facing impeachment. I am highly disappointed with this crass level of incompetence that this administration has demonstrated within just 1 year. But my brother Peter, when you are trying so well and so hard to give our president the benefit of the doubt, then another one drops. Now, from giving us veritable projects, 1 village, 1 dam, 1 constituency, 1 million, it is now beginning to look like 1 week, 1 scandal. 1 day, 1 scandal. Nanado, we never voted for this. The 53% who did this, you see your life. You see? What? You see, once Nanado was opposition leader, the man demonstrated that he could not even hold the MPP. We say, oh, Someshe, Nana ye udeni, Nana ye hu soda. The result is what we have now. But you see, there is even more dangerous ones. For the first time under the 1992 Constitution, access to our president has been openly auctioned. It has been put up on international competitive tendering. That today, if you want to sit by our president, all you need to do is to get $100,000 and you have access. When Kenneth Japan told us that it was only few people around the presidency that had auction access to him, and that you needed to pay $20,000 among others in order to see our president, we thought, oh, it's improper. We never knew that the president himself was deeply involved. The evidence is a simple one. Today, as we speak, a statement signed by the Minister of Trade, Alan Tremantin, has confirmed that 2.5 million Ghana cedis was realized from the presidential access auction. 2.3 million Ghana cedis. Yehovah. This is dangerous. Look, to the extent that the president decided within the space of 24 hours to clear all the public officials involved in this scandal, it tells you how the president is deeply involved in this mess. I am disappointed as a young man in this republic. This is not about politics. It's not about NDC, NPP politics. Look, to the extent that it was so bad that BBC carried it. The BBC story has the most expensive seat in the world is found in Ghana. The seat just close to the president. Don't call me. Yeah, tongue. Identity tomatoes. I mean, Mr. President, we beg you. Yes, you have told us that you are doing only 1 term. And that you have achieved your birthright, your birth this thing, that you want to be president. Yate Omampini. But stop putting this country every time on the bad light. From plagiarism to what and what. Every time our president gets international news, it is about one scandal or the other. Why should it be so? What wrong did we do? What wrong at all did we do? Mr. President, if you can't help us, don't destroy us. People have given this country credibility. Osajifo didn't fight for this. The people who fought the big six, the Osajifos, in fact, the air servicemen who were killed, Mr. President, respect the blood they toil for this country with. Their sacrifices. You can't auction access to you. In fact, you don't have the power to do that. You are bringing the high office you occupy into disrepute. And that is why any scandal that involves the president, the person gets cleared. Look, now we have what we call the corruption diaries. The corruption diary. Look, we were in this country where 5 million liters of contaminated fuel were sold to a company without license. What happened? After MPA itself had come out to say that Moving Pina did not have license and therefore Boss Ed in selling the 5 million contaminated fuel to Moving Pina, what did they do? The president quickly ordered that the man be cleared. And so the Boss MD was cleared. Every single scandal that involves the president, the person, guess what? Look, when 2 of his own chief of staffs were implicated by a man Nanado openly acknowledged, my own friend, A+. And A+ today is hurt. He's deeply hurt. Look, the conversation between A+ and the CID boss is what lawyers will call rep ipsa loquitur. The thing speaks for itself. The admissions in that tape speaks for itself. I do not want to belabor the point. What happened? They were cleared. So anything, there's a certain fetish, a cult around the president. Let's make him look clean. So people are pouring akasha, parazole, everything on him. But too much of it destroys you. And that is where the president has gotten himself in. The most dangerous of all is what I want to spend a little time on. Quality time. What has now become known as the Ministry of Special Initiatives. Initiatives. And these are the initiatives. And these ones, they are documented thieves. Look, the scandal is 1 per day. 1 per day. And this is just 1 year. Look, what are we talking about? The very cabinet presided over by the president. The very economic management team presided over by Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, and this man has the audacity to tell NDC members that we don't read. And I've always said, at least if you can't read, it's better. But when you read and you don't understand, you are the most dangerous person on earth. And I'll demonstrate that. The budget preparation process is not done by Hawa Kumsin. Let nobody make mistake. It is not Honorable Hawa Kumsin. She has nothing to do with this. She is just an agent. The person who put all these things in the budget process was Nanado Dankwa Akufo-Addo himself. He presided over it, initiated it, and it was taken to Parliament. Look, Nanado cannot tell us that a budget that was made, and listen to them, before this budget was even prepared, they sent a 10-member team across the length and breadth of Ghana to go and find out from constituencies what they needed. So this budget was not just prepared. For somebody to come and tell us that the figures were made in error is a lie. And it's a lie from hell. And must be rejected. And we'll reject it accordingly. We will not allow the MPP to throw dust into the eyes of Ghanaians. Look, what are the figures? We have a situation where, for the first time, once we have a Ministry of Health, the president has decided that he will manage the procurement of ambulances right from his office through Hawa Kumsin. Mr. President, now you don't turn procurement officer. Hey, the man wants to, and you see, the thing about MPP is that they will forever be MPP. If you recall, Kufuor used to have Mr. Kufuor, His Excellency, I greet you wherever you are. I could not, wish you birthday, belated one. Say, look, he had the office of accountability at the office of the president. You remember? You remember that office? And he supervised according to, the Haruna Iseku tape and others, where they were taking proceeds. You remember? It is the same. So now the president himself is sitting on the 10%, 25%. So if you look at the entire budget for this Ministry of Special Initiatives, okay, and this TIVS is THIVEX, TIVS, Special Initiatives Ministry. It amounts to 1.2 billion. 1.2 billion Ghana cedis, the entire budget for it. So the big deal. The president himself is now going to do the allocation. So for instance, today if Eduji doesn't fire, he will call you, you know what, you go and drill one borehole at 132,000 Ghana cedis. Mutala, who I know is preparing to lay bare the fact, you will say, Masa, stop. So he will call you and say, go and procure one ambulance at 300 and something thousand Ghana cedis. And the most dangerous one is the procurement of a website for 800,000. Why? The second coming of Jesus, will it be advertised on that website? The second coming of Jesus, will it be updated on that website? What kind of website? Look, Radio Gold Online, did it cost you, even online that has so much traffic with people visiting, did it cost you that much? What in God's name have we done wrong, Mr. President? And you see, because you had 53% of people voting for you, you have developed this arrogance, total disrespect and condescending attitude of insulting us always. What in God's name do you mean by it was a mistake? Does 800,000 look the same as 80,000? The two, they look the same in terms of words and figures. Are they the same? For you to come and tell us that, no, this one, it is what? Mistake. Typo error. So the typo error started from cabinet. It went straight to the economic management team. The finance ministry okayed it. It went to parliament. MPP MPs in parliament okayed it. You yourself even came and defended it. Later when it was put to you, now you say it is typographical error. We reject it. It is not. It was a scheme to loot and share the money. You refund it. Look, let it be known that when you attempt to steal, and you are caught in the act, it's still a crime. Attempted stealing. The mere fact that you did not have the opportunity to actually appropriate the is not a defense to the action. It is still an attempt. An attempt in law is a crime. We reject your false defense. And we reject it forcefully. Look, how in God's name? And you see, I beg you, give me, I want to read a text to the listeners of Radio Gold. Just 5 minutes, so I can read. Yes. So that the records ought to be set. On 22nd day of November, 22nd November 2016, Mustafa Abdul Hamid, the current Minister for Misinformation, said, and I quote,
information, you mean?
Misinformation. Let me read. The rape of our public purse continues unashamedly. In fact, the looting of the public treasury had reached epidemic proportions. On October 6, 2016, the PULC sends to the Public Procurement Authority for approval and single source contract for digging 500 boreholes in deprived communities across the country for 30 million Ghana cedis. I beg, emphasis. 500 boreholes, 30 million Ghana cedis. That means that, listen, CO, NDC members, listen to me and Ghanaians. He started by saying that the PULC had gone to the PPA for approval. Now he says, that means that John Mahama, so from PULC, he moved straight to John Mahama. That means that John Mahama is sinking one mechanized borehole at the cost of 60,000 Ghana cedis. Yes, you read me right. 60,000 Ghana cedis. This includes communities in Navrongo Central Busa Talensi constituency. We have checked with 5 different companies that sink mechanized boreholes. And depending on the distance from Accra, the cost ranges from 10,000 to 14,000 cedis to sink one mechanized borehole. What this means, and this is where I am coming from, what this means is that for every 4 million cedis that President Mahama spends on boreholes, he pockets 3 million cedis. Sabdullah. So he quotes, in fact, he says praise to Allah. This is shameful. This is how Mahama lives off the toil and sweat of the suffering people of the north who believe that he should stupidly vote for him to continue the rape of the public purse. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Let me apply this logic. Let me apply the logic of Mustafa Hamid to the facts of the instant case. That's what we lawyers will do. You said the precedent, you apply. Now, the Ministry of the Special Initiatives, headed by Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo and Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, have presented to Parliament this piece of document. With the greatest respect to our listeners. With the greatest respect, so that we put the issues in the proper perspective. And I'm quoting from the document presented to Parliament. It has this, quote, for every borehole, and they call it mechanized borehole. This is what it says. Construction of mechanized borehole, 1,000 pieces. Unit costs 132,000 Ghana cedis. So for the 1,000, it is costing the taxpayer 132 million Ghana cedis. Now this is where it is. According to Mustafa Hamid, for every 4 million, President Mahama pockets how much? 3 million in his pocket. And the boreholes were going for 60,000. Today, this administration is doing the same borehole for 132,000 Ghana cedis. So per the logic of Mustafa Hamid, Minister for Misinformation, how much is Nanado pocketing? It means that Nanado is pocketing over 6 million Ghana cedis on every 8 million that is spent. Alhamdulillah. Actabil. This is dangerous. This one, I am not saying it. That is the logic, the benchmark set by Mustafa Abdul Hamid. And let me congratulate him for his PhD that he defended recently. I like academics. But the fact ought to be put in its proper perspective. If 60,000 was corruption, 132,000 Ghana cedis will be super corruption. TV, chronobo, chronofita. That is the state of Ghana today. Beloved, it is not every day that you say, I am doing politics. I am not. I reject that accusation. It is the standard set by Mustafa Hamid. I have just read his Facebook post on the 22nd day of November 2016. If it's not true, I am challenging Mustafa Hamid, wherever he is, to deny this. If he wants, I'll send him a screenshot. I know his guys have told him to go and delete that particular post off his Facebook, but I have the screenshot. You can't run away from me. You can't. So if 60,000 was thievery, today Nana Danko Akufo-Addo himself is supervising 132,000 Ghana cedis for borehole. That borehole, does it contain the medicine for treating Ebola? Unless, and you see, let me tell you, this borehole that Nanado wants to go and sink, it flows with three things: nepotism, corruption, nepotism, corruption, naked thievery, and incompetence. That is what you can see in the borehole. This cannot be justified. And let me quickly say this. I, Edwiji Kujo Tamaklo, a private citizen of this Republic of Ghana, move accordingly on this platform the motion for the Parliament of the Republic of Ghana to reject the 2018 budget. That budget presented and approved by the majority NPP MPs. And remember that the NDC MPs have said that that budget ought to be rejected and actually worked out. What I want to say, I understand they didn't. In fact, that should be what they should have done by walking out.
My information is that they did walk out at some point. But
good. What I want to say, and I'm moving this motion accordingly as a private citizen, that the 2018 budget ought to be rejected. It has the seed of fraud. It has the seed of criminality. It has the seed of incompetence. It has the seed of naked thievery. Like we say, fraud omnia vitiate. Fraud vitiates everything. We cannot, if 60,000 in the past was thievery, 132,000 cannot be justified. But before I go, I beg just 1 minute. Honorable Chairman Sabonsu, in his usual condescending manner, decided to once again insult the people of Ghana. I respect him so much, but I'm disappointed. When the NDC constructed or were constructed and eliminated the schools under trees, the MPP organized several fora, platform, press conferences, and said constructing 6-unit classroom blocks at 450,000 and 500 depending on location, it was corruption. It was an avenue for create, loot, and share. Today, the budget presented by Honorable Hawa Kumsin, prepared by His Excellency Nana Danko Akufo-Addo and Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, and given to her to present. They have budgeted for 6 classroom blocks at the cost of 770,000 Ghana cedis. Beloved citizens of this republic, if 500,000 was corruption, if 500,000 was an avenue for create, loot, and share, 770,000 for the same project at a time when they claim inflation is going down cannot be justified. We reject this budget, and this budget ought to be rejected. The explanation by Chairman Sabonsu that the 6 as it appeared in the budget was a typographical error and that it was 9 classroom blocks. I have never seen that before. I have never seen a community where you have 9 classroom blocks. It is 6 from primary 1 to primary 6. Now, Chairman Sabonsu had added case That is how incompetent even when it comes to lying. We reject this budget, and I move the motion for this budget to be rejected, and I know that the good people of Ghana will second that this motion be moved accordingly. I do it for move.
Thank you very much. That was lawyer Godwin Edruji Tamaklo. He is the deputy regional youth organizer of the NDC. Moving that's the budget for 2018 that was presented competently, so isn't it, by the by the finance minister, be rejected. Before I come to you, Mutala, let me pick a few of the messages that we have here. This one is from Tafa in Amahia, and he says, I was shocked to hear that our president has cleared the Minister of Trade and those who organized the program that brought a shame to the presidency and our dear nation of any wrongdoing. Mr. President, these gargantuan corruption that is open, you know they see. Haba, Mr. President, please remember this attempt to cover up corrupt activities that is coming from your appointees will push your good image into the gutter. Finally, is President Rawlings, Professor Mate, and Dr. Otebel in town? Won't they advise their friends to slow down on the corruption before the whole country is crashed down? That was sent in by is a question actually. Tafa is asking. This one here says, "Good morning, Peter. I want to ask, when did the MPP realize that there can be a typographical mistake or error after 2016 Ghana Independence Anniversary Celebration brochure mistakes? Hallelujah. The good Lord will fight for you. Ex-President Mahama. Amen." Kwame from Hacho, he sent that one in. This one here says Musa Abatwa. Okay. In Kumasi says, I'm totally disappointed in President Akufo-Addo in terms of his fight against corruption. Is he the incorruptible man we know after paying a whooping $2.5 million for a dubious Ghana Post GPS? The Ministry of Special Development Initiative will in 2018 spend 800,000 Ghana cedis on the development of its website, and 123,000, I think 132,000 Ghana cedis for borehole. What have we done wrong? Since this government took office, corruption cases always mentioned in dollar denomination. Why? Public purse is seriously bleeding. God save Ghana. Thank you very much, Musa Abatwa, for that message. This one here says, President Nanado is not being truthful to us. He is looting Ghana. Thank you, lawyer Godwin Eduji Tamaklo, for emphasizing on this. I have stayed in Nigeria for some years, but never heard of this corruptions. Leave the Flagstaff House. Mahama, our president, can never do this. God will punish you with your stealing if it happens in the Bible. Okay, Chris, thank you very much for that message. Let me pick this one here before I come to you, Mutala. It says, good morning, Peter. Let's look at critical thinking. When a student commits error, fail. When an accountant commits error, jail. So now what happens to politicians who deliberately commit an error? God stay in heaven small, from Obiba from Omanjo. He sent that one in. This one here says, good morning, Peter, and your discussant. So, Peter, so the Minister for Special Development Initiative wants to tell us that she is going to buy a 4-wheel drive for a bloated 20 million Ghana cedis. These people should give us a break. No wonder she is now called Minister for Special Initiatives. God bless Ghana, from Kofi Jackson in Akwetia. Okay, so those are a few of the messages that you have sent in. I will now come to you, Honorable Mutala Mohammed. He's a former Deputy Minister for Trade and Industry, and also a former Member of Parliament for Nantong constituency. Right.
Good morning, and good morning to your cherished Let me also just use this opportunity to wish our brothers and sisters, our Christian brothers and sisters, a Merry Christmas, because my understanding is that this is the last Alhaji and Alhaji that we're going to have for this year, and so I would join my brother in doing that, as to he wishing his constituency and the regional executive, including branch executives. I can understand. Remember, he wished even youth organizers, branch youth organizers, and indicated
that was a very
that the branch youth organizers are the legs of the party. It's understandable. If you have a deputy youth organizer, of course, he may want to go for either the youth organizer or a different position in the Greater Accra. He's an outstanding personality, and for me, an asset to the NDC. Let me first and foremost state, and I want to ask a question. Where is former President Rawlings? Where is Nana Konedu? And where is Martin Amidu in all distance? I'm asking this question not derogatorily. I'm asking this question because for me, former President Rawlings inspired many people, particularly our generation, and those of us in politics. And I have said time and again that me and my family were victims of the excesses of the revolution. But I chose to support the NDC because I chose to forgive and understood that regardless the excesses, former President Rawlings inspired me a lot, the extent to which I believe that many people across the country, particularly young people, were inspired by him. I grew up knowing him as the leader and the president or the head of state of Ghana. And I think that the principles that he stood for, probity, accountability, you can sum it all as good governance, is a principle that will forever be with us. Now, if former President Rawlings is not able to speak against these things, then I would have no doubt in mind that all his consistent actions rebuked condemnation of the NDC and the President Mohammed's administration and the NDC government and President Mills is nothing but a step on the road to the destruction of the NDC and the destruction of the fundamental principles that he stood and I believe still stands for. This is a genuine question I'm asking, and I'm asking that question because it ought to be asked, and let no one think that we're using this opportunity to chastise him. No, he still inspires me, but I think that he needs to speak out. As a matter of fact, my understanding of his consistent speaking on probity and accountability is not only limited within the NDC, but he has been very consistent on the need for us to indeed uphold these principles as people and as Ghanaians. And that is why I would expect him to speak against this. But you see, there is a proverb in the north that it is only a fool who goes to the market with his village people and abandon them, because in the market he has found new friends, and perhaps those new friends will provide him what he needs. He will begin to realize that those can't be his permanent friends when the market ends or closes. Because when the market closes or ends, people will go to their various villages. And certainly he would have to go with the very people he abandoned. There is also another proverb that the day the leg of the goat is broken, that is the day the wayward leg, the leg of the wayward goat is broken, that is the very day that wayward goat would identify its true home. Because once the leg is broken, you can't be wayward again, you would have to go home. I'm saying that, frankly speaking, some of us defended the cause and defended the former president and the founder of our party, proudly so. And I have no regret in the defense that I have given, and I will have no regret in defending him today, tomorrow. But I think that he trained us. He brought us up with some courage and expected us to stand up to injustices, to stand up and speak the truth, regardless who the truth is intended for. And that is why I want to use this medium to call on him that he needs to speak out. I have never had any problem if you raise concerns about certain things you think happens in the NDC that did not conform to the probity and accountability. I have never had any problem, and I have never indeed questioned that. I've always made demands that it shouldn't be lopsided. So he needs to speak out. Now, we are looking at two major issues today. One, we are looking at that fraudulent and thievery that was perpetrated on the people of this country in the name of a budget meant for an illegal office. I don't want to blame entirely the majority. I blame the entire parliament. Because the minority did extremely well in raising some of the concerns for which we have been discussing ever since the budget was presented. I thought that they could have boycotted the entire approval of the budget. Because what was presented in Parliament was nothing but a charade of a budget. It was full of concoctions. It was full of fabrications. And in some instances, full of lies. And I'll give you a classical example. In that same budget, the Minister of Finance lied to the people of this country that Cocoa Board was indebted in that same budget. And in that same budget, he indicated that Cocoa Board had spent beyond their budget, their budgets in 2016. When actual fact, the facts were completely different. A budget was read for cocoa roads, and the cocoa roads have a period. Some of them would have finished in 5 years, some 4 years, 3 years. So what you do is that every year, you know the total budget, and every year, the total cost. So every year you raise a budget to take care of the roads that will complete that particular year. I also want to use this opportunity to find out from our founder. Didn't he exert his influence on the Nanado's administration to ensure that they did not cancel the contracts that Cocoa Board awarded to Volta region? Remember, as a board member, there were some contracts that were approved for cocoa growing areas. When this government came, they have cancelled most of the contracts that were awarded road construction in Volta region. I thought he would have exerted his influence on this government. And a lot of our brothers were deceived into thinking that the NDC didn't do well, the NDC was so useless, and therefore they should. I agree, and I've stated it time and again, that there is some justification in the disillusionment, disenchantment that engulfed a lot of the NDC faithfuls, before 2016 elections. And I agree also that some of our appointees also under the previous administration didn't conduct ourselves well. There is no question at all about that. And that is why I will never be defensive when people raise genuine concerns about circumstances that led to the defeat of the NDC. We need to admit that and move forward. But that notwithstanding, we also have to ask these questions. And we are asking these questions in the view of the glaring robbery that is taking place in this country. I haven't seen Mr. Martin Amidu write his thesis again. And I have said that the best way we can believe Martin Amidu is for us to have a debate with him to find out who is more corrupt in this country. Because for me, his silence, the fantastic notice of silence from him, from the founder and from the Nana Kwenedu, is something that we should not underestimate. Because if you are principled that a moral wrong action is a wrong action, regardless who does it, regardless the circumstance under which it is done, there can't be any justification. So if you condemn certain ills in any administration, more so a political party that you founded, then you should be very comfortable in pointing out more grievous ills in an administration led by somebody who embarrassed you, who disregarded you. You should point out that. And when you raise this question, people say, oh yes, if President or then Nanado embarrassed former President Rawlings, what is wrong with he identifying the good things he's doing? Absolutely. There is nothing wrong identifying the good things. There is equally nothing wrong of pointing out the bad things that every single person in this country has seen. He should point them out. Now let me talk about the person for who the budget was sent to Parliament. The person for whom it was sent to Parliament was no less a person than Mr. Osafo Mafu. It must be stated very clearly that for me, Mr. Osafo Mafu is one of the corrupt politicians we have ever had in this country. So he ought not call people corrupt. We should find out why President Nana Addo removed him as a Minister of Finance at a time when we were told that he was given an award, the best finance minister, you remember, in Ghana or in Africa. We should find out. Go to Pillar 2. There is a building there. And my understanding, the building belongs to Mr. Osafu Mafu. Cable Junction. It was just foundation for over 10 years. For over 10 years. Mr. Osafu Mafu didn't have a dime to buy blocks even to raise it. Go and see that building today in less than a year. Huge 3 or 4 story building. Mr. Osafu Mafu should tell us how and where he got money to do that. And let no one tell me that, oh, he had money. If he had money, is it not curious that he didn't see the need to raise that building for almost 10 years or more? And he has suddenly raised the building from the foundation to completion. And I'm told stores have even been rented. People are occupying stores in that building. Less than a year. Mr. Osafu Mafu should tell us. So if there is any politician in this country who is corrupt, I can't see any corrupt politician than Osafu Mafu. Perhaps within the NPP, he may not be the most corrupt. But I say that he is the most corrupt politician that I have ever seen. He should explain to the people of this country why a foundation that was left for almost 10 years or more would have to be completed in less than a year, only when he was appointed as the senior minister. And in fact, when MPP won election, until he was appointed and approved, he didn't even start it. So he'll use less than 6 months to do what he did there. So if you look at that budget, clearly, more questions ought to be asked. Now if there isn't any legal basis on which his office operates, there isn't any law, nothing. How did he run the office in 2017? How did he run that office? Monies were taken from the consolidated funds. And I think that man should be prosecuted. That man should be prosecuted because he ought to have known that the monies he was using to run his office was fraudulently gotten. He ought to be prosecuted. The other issue has to do with the issue. So I won't even go into whether the money should. I mean, ab initio is fraudulent. He ought to be prosecuted. We don't even need to waste time on this. 2, having served in government, I have some little understanding as to how budgets are are done. Budgets, look, every single budget of every ministry will be anchored on policies by those ministries.
Did you also use 2 million Ghana cedis for the preparation?
I mean, that is even outrageous. I'll even come to that. Every single ministry, you prepare your budget based on policies of the ministry within that year. And sometimes if you have a long-term policy implementation, you can have that knowing that if we implement this policy, it's going to be continuum. This year we need this amount of money to be able to execute this part of the policy that we are implementing. And every single policy of every single ministry and agency should be tailored to the vision of the president. It's the vision of the president. We are running an executive system of governance, not a parliamentary system. No. So every single thing you do should be anchored through the vision of no less a person than the president. So President Nana Addo and the Flagstaff House cannot feign innocence of the challenges we have. 2, my sister Hawa Kumsin, Honorable Hawa Kumsin, is going to be used as a sacrificial lamb, unfortunately. And if she's listening, I won't be surprised, and I can understand the reasons. Because the hypocrisy today, you find the media cabal. I listened to multimedia and others yesterday. They are talking about this thing, how outrageous it is. Why didn't they talk about the over 700,000 dubious money paid to Esan Kuma and his group as legal fees? Why didn't they talk about that? Yes, it's Kuma, and they can say that yes, we didn't do anything illegal. It was monies that we charged, and those monies were paid. And I don't have any problem at all with that. But is it questionable to be paid over 700,000 Ghana cedis as legal fees At a time when our economy is being challenged, at a time when government failed to even meet the revenue targets. Yes. So they didn't do anything wrong. They come the legal whatever the firm, they charge and government paid. And I have no problem at all. But I have a problem with the very persons who said they were occupying the Flagstaff House because they claim that the king was naked. They didn't see anything wrong. I listened to him about 2 days today, last week, on Joy. And he said, yes, he wrote a book. He was ranting. He even sent a letter. Oh, yes, you were ranting for legal fees. Now that you have gotten that legal fees, ranting is over. My understanding is that the wife is going, in fact, the reasons why they want to boot out the deputy governor of Bank of Ghana is to pave way for the appointment of his wife as deputy governor of Bank of Ghana. We are watching. So I'm asking those journalists, why didn't they talk about that? When we bought a Google app, $2.5 million, they didn't. The enthusiasm with which they are attacking this woman, this innocent woman, they didn't have that enthusiasm. When the Minister of Finance went in for a dubious 2.25 billion bond, in which 5% of that bond, we still do not know who purchased that 5%, which is over $150 million. The media cabal didn't see anything wrong with that. They didn't talk about that. We didn't hear anything. When the 5 million robbery at Boss came out, the energy wasn't there. When the Minister of Agric spent outrageous over 20 million Ghana cedis in the so-called fight against armyworm infestation, out of which almost 9 million, out of which almost 9 million, 8.4 million, was spent in what they describe as media sensitization, when there isn't a single evidence of any media or adverse anywhere, print or electronic, about that, yet they spent an outrageous almost 9 million Ghana cedis in that. The media, that section of the media didn't see anything wrong with that. When we were told that there is thievery at the Flagstaff House, the seat of government has become citadel for corruption, that media didn't see anything wrong with that. They just, get off my back response. They didn't even talk about it. When in this country, almost 400 trucks load of premixed fuel diverted. They didn't see anything wrong with that. When we're told that you need to pay $20,000 to $30,000 before you can have access to the president to do genuine business, they didn't see anything wrong with that. And what is even shocking, when foreign businessmen charged $100,000 to sit with the president on the same table, tell me, did they cover that story more than 2 days? Yet this innocent woman, Honorable Howard Kumsen, who has done absolutely nothing, who was not the brain behind this budget, that budget was supervised by no less a person than Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, supervised by no less a person than His Excellency the President, the Minister of Finance, the Economic Management team, yet they want to lynch this woman as a sacrificial lamb. If the woman is listening, I won't be surprised if they get her out. This woman has done nothing in this. Howard Kumsen has done absolutely nothing in this. Yet the media, the hypocritical media, and have found those hypocrites in some of the civil society groups who are now writing theses. I have found a section of the hypocritical clergy who are now speaking out against this. Tell me, between this thing that is submitted, fraudulent as it may be, is it more fraudulent than allegation that the entire seat of government is filled with corruption? Did you tell me the 150 million plus constituting 5% of the dubious and fraudulent Ken Bond added? Is it not serious? Did you tell me the 5 million liters of boss fraud? Did you tell me The terrorist groups, the goons, trained, aided, financed by the Flagstaff House, attacking people left, right, and center. Did they give it that energy and that attention as they are giving this one? And in giving this attention, they are excluding the very actors who perpetrated this fraud. And they zero everything to this woman. Howard Kumsin has done nothing. They are out for that woman. And some of us understand why they are out for the woman. I will tell her, don't resign. That is what they want to push her to do. If there is anybody who should resign in this, it should be the president and the vice president. And the economic management team. How can a minister be held responsible in the newly ministry that is created? That is a new ministry created, isn't it?
Who should be held? Who?
I'm saying it's a new ministry created.
By who? Nana?
Who created that ministry? Are you telling me that the president haven't created a new ministry? Wouldn't be aware of the policies? Who determine the kind of programs and projects that are supposed to be executed by this ministry? Who determines that? Every single thing about this goes through the vision of the president who created it. He didn't just dream about it. He thought it through. He had his team. Perhaps a policy governing this. And I believe that haven't even approved this budget. After they have done everything, the president saw it. And in fact, the economic management team made presentation at cabinet on the entire budget. Every single ministry budget. That is proper practice. A presentation would be done at cabinet. And the president would have been convinced.
Let me get this. I mean, you can't have the entire budget, the nitty-gritties of the entire budget discussed at length at budget.
I'm not, no. What I'm saying is that it's about the policy. If you have a new ministry such as this, you have a policy, and the policy that occasioned even the budget would have been a policy that suits the vision of the president. The president would have known that as part of the budget of this, they are going to have procure about 272 ambulances. 275 ambulances. He would have known. You know what? Any contract that any ministry wants to enter into, it will be brought to parliament for a cabinet for approval. That is what happens. And in fact, they have subcommittees they form at cabinet to look at those things so that they can segregate it and reduce it to a simple language and short text for cabinet to be able to comprehend. I have represented my ministry in cases like that, because most often the minister will ask the deputies to go and represent the minister in matters like that. Are you telling me that cabinet and His Excellency the President didn't know that they were going to buy 20 V8? 20 V8. You know why? For all you know, the president has appointed or gotten someone to provide, to procure and supply those V8s. The entire Ministry of Trade which I served, 20 V8 Land Cruisers didn't have up to even 15 Land Cruisers. The entire Ministry of Trade. 20. This is a ministry that doesn't even have a structure, still operating in the office of the president. 20 V8s. Let's find out which businessman is supplying those 20 V8s. 20. Tell me one single ministry. Perhaps you can talk about finance. Would you have 20 V8s? And I'm saying that even if they would have procured those V8s for a long time, number of years. So you can have old ones and new ones all combined. 20. Didn't the president know that they were spending 82 million in building warehouses? 82 million. Didn't the president know? And that 82 million, 50 warehouses, what for? Are they cocoa board or cocoa supplying agency? 82 million. And they will rent offices 15 million. And the strange thing is that the very year they will rent the offices, they will spend 3 million in renovating those offices. I mean, does it make sense? And then they will establish microfinance, spend 550,000 to establish a micro enterprises, 550,000 cities each. 550,000 about how many billion old Ghana cities? Microfinance each, micro enterprises. I mean, they listed even UN projects, a lot of UN projects of the United Nations, and their sub agencies and groups, and that is costing about over 300 million Ghana cedis. Abe, I mean, they are forcing me to speak to you. And they said solar panel boreholes. Like, seriously, I'm not surprised. That thing was actually said by my senior brother, Honorable Mustafa Hamid. He didn't only put that on his Facebook wall. He spoke on those things. And I know he's a sheikh. He can't deny that. It will be embarrassing if he has pulled that off. Because what men do is that you own up and stand to your convictions and what you believe in. If he has taken it off, I'll be extremely embarrassed. Why? PURC. Build boreholes. Mechanized boreholes at 60,000. I did a borehole from my own money in my constituency in Zhang. Go to a mechanized borehole. Of course, I couldn't have spent up to 60,000. But I spent within the ranges of almost 50,000.
For a mechanized borehole?
Yes, I used my monitoring. Monies that I was supposed to use for monitoring. Then I sacrificed to use it to provide mechanized borehole. So at that time when you had a contractor, I didn't have go through the bidding and others. I had someone and I gave the money. Now you had government that did the 60,000. Just the difference was 10,000. So it was not out of place to have a mechanized borehole, because in some instances where you get the water may not be in the village or in the community. It will be a bit distance. In my case, that was what happened. Outskirts of the community. Then you have to pull it, connect everything, electricity, and what I even did, provided standpipes and everything where and reservoirs that the water will provide for the people. The community depends on the water today. So it wasn't out of place. Now you are spending 132,000. 132,000. Now when they argue, they say, oh, solar panels. What kind of solar panel do you need to make a mechanized borehole work? You don't need any complex and expensive solar panel to do that. The energy that is required for the thing to pump the water is not much. So they should spare us this solar panel. I listened to the majority leader yesterday. I wasn't surprised. That's why he engages in, even as a minority leader. And he was not being truthful. How can you approve a budget? The budget was approved. Now, after the budget is read, appropriate select committees will take what belongs to them. And at the committee level, they will discuss it thoroughly. At the committee level, they approved it. They approved the 800,000 Ghana cedis meant for a software, a website. 800,000 Ghana. That was what was approved. They brought it to the house. The entire house approved it.
So it couldn't have been a typographical.
It can never. In any case, they think we are a bunch of idiots in this country. We are not. Now, granted that it was a typo, calculated with the 80,000 Ghana cedis and not 800,000. When you calculate that, the figures will not add up.
Yes, even the total.
If you have the total figure of the ministry, take away the 800,000, replace it with 80,000, and you calculate the total, it will not add up. You would have a balance of 72,000, 720,000. But when you do the calculation with 800,000, you get everything per.
So the typo happened in two separate ends.
Yes. So who is the majority leader trying to deceive? Who? We? This is a slap on our faces. It's an insult. And I thought that the minister would have been quiet. I read something, someone said that Nanado's and Baumia's government have become scandal clearing agents. They clear every scandal. So they cleared the bus robbery. It was cleared. They brought in the thievery at the Flagstaff House. Oh, cleared.
The bust issue was cleared by the BNI.
with BNI at the very time that the minister who claimed that he was setting up a committee said BNI have cleared them, and immediately set a committee which included the BNI. Please, BNI could not have gone to do that if they were not asked by a particular ministry to do that. Who asked them to do that investigation? So that is not true. You know, clearing agents, they have all strategies. So if you have a government that is clearing scandals, they have strategies. Boss was cleared. The 2.25 billion fraudulent bond was cleared. The robbery at the Ministry of Agri cleared. Otiko Jaba cleared. The accusation of murder by Buru Nabu and lesbianism. You remember in that video?
Libya.
Cleared. Everything. So I think that this government is perfectly fit in that description. Scandal clearing agents. That is precisely what they know. Look, and I'm saying that you are dealing with politicians who at all point in time will do what personal interest dictates. That's what they do. What personal interest dictates, that's what they do. Look, somebody sent me a message and said, look, Honorable, yesterday I slept in darkness. I am a graduate. I don't have a job. I have rented a place. My rent is due. I slept in darkness not because there was doom so. I slept in darkness because my power is finished and I don't have money to buy power. So it hurts me when I hear some of these things. And that is why it hurts me when our founder, who inspired some of us and will continue to inspire us, sees nothing wrong, hears nothing wrong. Nothing is being said. I mean, how? Kamanula. I mean, it's so hurtful that some of these things are happening. Sometimes you find it extremely difficult to defend him. I have had some argument with people who argue that we blindly defend him.
See no evil.
And I said no. But when things like this, how would I tell those people? I am hopeful that this 31st December celebration that is taking place in Ho, if he uses it to attack NDC, it will be very clear to me that he is on the path of destroying the party that he founded with his sweat, his blood, and his zeal and determination. If he does that, because you have hounded the NDC enough, we are in opposition. Government is ruling. A new government is ruling, and corruption everywhere. He can't feign innocence about some of these things. I have no problem. Who he makes his friends, no. But he needs to speak out. He needs to speak out. And again, look, there is no doubt in my mind that corruption under this government and any other Buza Danko tradition, if you like, corruption is a chosen instrument of this government, and they play it like a flute. You know, if you have a flute as your chosen instrument, those who know how to play flute very well, they play it with alacrity and the sweetness. That is what this government has chosen corruption to be. They have chosen it as the only instrument, musical instrument, which they play like a flute. But one thing I know for sure, that Ghanaians will one day remember the monstrous, the cruel, and the most corrupt government ever to be visited on them. And my heart bleeds that you have a president who touted himself as the protector of the public purse. Look, the president bought 3 houses in London. President Nanado. Let them come and deny it.
You have evidence that
he bought houses in London. Let them deny it. We should find out who bought 2 houses at cantonments. They should find out who bought 2 houses at cantonments. Just barely 2 months ago. There's a huge scandal that is coming out. But you know what? Don't be surprised by tomorrow or by next week. You hear them saying they are prosecuting ABCD because it's a strategy to divert attention. They will do that. It's a strategy to divert attention because they haven't skunked for information without getting. They will do anything because right now the MPP sees prosecution of former government appointees as cincinnatus to salvaging the already collapsing government. This government is completely collapsed. And when you meet some of them, they would admit that things are not going on well. Because if you have a government that has no vision, that has no direction, and no one can tell me that this is a corruption that is perpetrated by just people and not the president. All this corruption are done through the tacit knowledge of His Excellency the President and the Vice President. And it hurts me that any time I thought there is a mess to clean, they use my brother Dr. Baumia. That's what they do to him. And sometimes I can't understand how novice he can be. No, to be very honest, with all due respect. And wait, anytime they have anything unpopular, they will push him. They will push him. They will push him to speak on that. Don't be surprised if he will be the one coming out to defend this mess. And as he does that, it makes him more unpopular. It discredits him more. It ramshackles him. And the more he engages in that, the more his political future is completely destroyed.
Thank you.
That is what happens in this country. I expect to hear not just condemnation, but demands by section of the clergy that the right things ought to be done. We can't throw our hands in despair. We can't come sit on radios and make those noise. We must demand that the right thing is done. And we have never had any government in the 4th Republican Constitution where within 1 year you are inundated with unabated allegations of corruption, in which you have leadership of the same party admitting that yes, this thing is corruption. You don't need anybody to tell you it is. And I think that we must demand, let those hypocritical section of the media, the cabal, they should spare us. Honorable Howard Kumsin has done nothing. The energy with which they are condemning this woman, when the woman didn't do this, when this thing went through and had the approval of the president and others, why didn't they exert same energy on the fraudulent 2.25 billion bond in which the Minister of Finance, the most powerful, I'm told, member of this government went in for? Just yesterday, why didn't they exert the same energy on the Minister for Agric when he fraudulently spent almost 20 million in fighting so-called army worm infestation? Why didn't they spend this when we're told that the Flagstaff House is infested with thieves? Why didn't they spend the same energy when you have a CID boss who was caught covering up corruption and only for the person to be promoted? Why didn't they spend that energy and the hypocrisy, something that just happened days before this issue came up, paying $100,000 to have access to the president? And we'll get to that. Why didn't they spend energy? Howard Kumsin is the most vulnerable and soft target. Let's lynch this woman, because it was the same thing the President Kufuor administration did. They used the then Minister for Agric, what's the name? The PNC man who was Minister for Youth and Sports.
No, Malamisa.
Malamisa. That was what they did. They did that to cover up, and now they have gotten another soft target. If Dr. Baumia thinks that Howard Kumsin is the target, let's lynch him. It will come. Let's lynch him. It will come to him. I'm saying that you can talk about what has happened. We have spoken about it, but I'm saying that equally speak about the most grievous corrupt acts engaged by other ministers, not using this vulnerable woman, this soft target, to destroy her when she has done nothing. And you have majority leader without any shame who comes saying that no, you see, there was a typo. This is Christmas, and I believe that some of them will kneel down and pray to God. I expect them to kneel down and pray to God for forgiveness.
Honorable Mutala, just one word. Is it not shocking that when the brochure, independent brochure issue came, and it was obvious that there were typographical mistakes in the brochure, you remember, they demanded that people be lynched in this country. That resulted in the resignation of the director of information, the acting director of information.
You know why I don't want to talk about that? We should not allow them to play a fast one on us. It is not any typo error.
No, I'm even rejecting that claim.
It is not any typo error. How can it be typo error? The Parliamentary Select Committee, if you know how budgets and Parliament works, after the budget was read, appropriate committees took what they were supposed to. So you see this budget, it would have gone through the ministry under which it operates. It would have gone through the Ministry of Finance. It didn't just go through just one. It would have gone through the parliamentary Committee on Finance. Okay, it would have gone through the ministry that is also created, because once that ministry is created, they would have a committee for it. It would have gone through there. It would have gone through the Finance Committee. They would have gone through all the detail, and at the committee level, you do all calculations.
Right.
And at the committee level, all these calculations were done. After which it was then brought to the larger house. And the larger house for the second reading. I'm saying that once they bring it, the debate will ensue. Now, all these things were done. And the budget was approved. Yet you come around and you tell me, oh, it was a typo. At what stage? Oh, after the committee. When you do the calculation, with the so-called typo, take away the 800,000 and put the 80,000 and do the calculation, the figures will not add up. You have excess of 720,000 Ghana cedis without anything. But when you do the calculation with 800,000, it will come pe. So who are they trying to deceive?
Lakpato. Movito.
Okay, thank you very much, Honorable Murtala, Comrade Murtala
The
Muhammad.
conduct of some of these people is so dishonorable that we don't want to associate with them.
Okay, so let me just pick a few of the messages that I have here. I see that we have quite a number of messages also for those of us who were watching as live on Facebook. This one here says, Peter, can you imagine we didn't have a fearless for the state like Radio Gold and a viable opposition? This crass attempt at corruption would have been swept under the rug. This even tells me that we need to put pressure on Parliament to effect the Right to Information Bill promptly. There's everything wrong with this government. The first thing they sought to do was to reward family, friends, and ex-wives with appointments by creating more ministries and roles, and antithesis to their campaign promise. This smacks of conflict of interest. How can you effectively deal with your corrupt cronies and family? As for ROPA, the NDC better solidify their diasporan presence and work with their members abroad to ensure there's no rigging and disenfranchisement on their blind side. They're setting the precedence with these signs only 1 year in. Greetings to lawyer Godwin Edujita Maklo, Comrade Murtala. He describes you as Mighty Murtala. God bless Ghana, he adds, and this is coming from Nee Thompson all the way in Jordan. This one here says, is Honorable Murtala saying now JJ should be the one attacking the MPP government for them to have power back? Why then they did not listen to JJ when NDC was in government? If he has now realized JJ was seeing clearly then. Jude sends.
We'll set the record straight.
I'll give you the opportunity to do that. Let me just. I'll give you the opportunity to respond to some of the messages that are coming in. Good morning to. Good morning to you and your panelists and your cherished listeners. From January to December, since the NPP led Nanado took over power in Ghana, corruption has been the order of the day. The greediness and stealing and thievery which is going on today is unprecedented, which hasn't happened before in the fourth Republican dispensation. Ghanaians, where did we go wrong by voting this corrupt MPP government? God save us. Habib in Sawam sends that one in. This one here, okay. This one here says, good morning, Peter. I extend my Xmas greetings to all your panelists. It is mind-blowing the level of incompetence that had been carried out by this government. The president should take responsibility in all these avoidable mistakes, unless the president wanted us to believe that he is actually sleeping on the job. Sami Inside who sent that one in. This one here says, Peter and lawyer Eduji, I beg you, to tell Togbi Awomefia of Anglo 36 states and all Angloga spiritual fathers that they should find ways and means to handle Mr. Kofi Jamesi, the chieftaincy minister. To what I don't care, but Anglos must arise, and to Aflao and Aveno chiefs, they, the youth, should take off their shoes because they took bribe allegedly. I forgot Jidula sends that one in. Eduji, that's a very powerful one. I don't actually know what it means. Please, okay. It says lawyer Eduji is a gem in Ghanaian politics. But please, lawyer, I would like to know, what does the law say if a minister is lying through his teeth? This one here says, hello, Peter, lawyer Eduji, and comrade Mutala. Don't forget to send your condolences to the families of your late comrade, Nino Tidwa, and say amen to his soul. Please don't. Okay, I'm sure we'll do that. We have not forgotten that as well. This one here says, good morning, please. There were people. Okay, please, are the following people still in Ghana? J.J. Rollins, his wife, Martin Amidu, and Professor Marty. If they are, then I suppose they are deaf and dumb now. Kwame Medina sent that one in. Kwame, I'm not too sure if there is any medical records to that effect. Good morning, Peter. Tell Comrade Mutala that ex-President Rollins will not speak out. He's scared of Nanado. That is why he's doing paddy. Remember what Nanado did to him, even when he was Common Foreign Affairs Minister. Kofi Nkofredo sent that one in. This one here says, Abbas Amogobo in Offenso says, the MPP people think we have sand in our head. How can President sit in the Flagstaff House and be clearing corruption acts by his appointees? I'm highly disappointed in President Nana Akufo-Addo for his fight. Is there any fight at all against corruption? He adds. This one here says, is the NPP-led government by Nanado and Baumia coming to serve Ghanaians, or they are coming to loot the state coffers? Is a question he's asking, but I am not too sure what answer I can provide for that. You will have to do your own analysis and answer yourself. The entire 2018 budget needs crystal scrutiny. Could imagine if the so-called typographical errors occurred in various ministries, the act of thievery in a gargantuan way. Good morning, Delano of Agbe. Delano Agbe Peduase sent that one in. Papa Ni on Facebook says, please, NPP government should try to complete the Eastern Corridor Road and the Bolgatanga Boko Plumakrum Road from Ni. Okay. It's rather unfortunate Ghana could not find a trusted individual to move Ghana forward, even if any of the parties in Ghana. Benedict Gatu Bello sent that one in. Peter, please, can you help me with the information concerning the whereabouts of Martin Amidu? I'm not so sure myself. Naskin Malik sent that one in. Mustafa Hamed said, nobody wants JJ to help us win power, but if he is a true crusader for probity and accountability, he should be talking against any government in power who indulge in unlawful act of corruption. Really enjoying your program. Nyako Isaka sends that one in. Okay, this one here says, great submission by Mutala, Comrade Mutala. Joseph Grant sent that one. He says, I'm watching you live from Taiwan. In fact, MPP government is here to loot this country. Okay, thank you very much, Narus Muniru. This one is from Kofi Selassie. He says, yes, it was Samir Oku who fronted the purchasing of the house in London for President Nana Akufo-Addo. Nasara Osmanov said, watching from Stockholm, great program by all standard. The daylight corruption is too much. Something must be done to stop it before it goes out of hand. Martin Champong Fache Ajay says, we thank the Almighty for this expose. Well done. This one, I win. Mbil Mbang Amadu says, Comrade Mutala, try to consult the party to help Radio Go to have more affiliate stations in Ghana to listen to the truth. People voted us out because they were blindfolded by the opposition stations. Okay, Mutala, that's a task that you're being given. Do you expect your corrupt founder to react? John, I'm sorry. JJ is not talking because he is doing the bidding of his wife, Nana Kunedu. He is afraid of Nana Ekufuado, that he will prosecute. Okay. I'm sure there's a problem with connection there. I will take...
Just 1 minute.
I'll let Elikem coming before. Okay, let me give you the 1 minute.
Yes,
1 minute,
I saw a text in response to the plea by my senior comrade Mutala on our founder to speak up. Some of us, we have decided that we will wear our voice. We will speak. We are saying that, you see, when a man or a father goes out and tell people that the daughter is a prostitute, must he be worried when the daughter has a delayed marriage? Must he be worried when the daughter begins to have a delayed marriage? No. That is all that my senior brother Comrade Mutala is saying. Probity, accountability, social justice should not only be relevant to the NDC. In fact, those principles have expression in the directive principles of state policy and in the 1992 Constitution. So when Comrade Mutala says that, look, for 1 year, there have been scandalous allegations, proven allegations of corruption, corrupt deals under this administration, and the man we all know, the man we have all touted to the world, and let nobody make that mistake. Nobody likes former President Rawlings than anybody. Nobody can monopolize him. But what we will not stand, and let me make it clear here, hypocrisy. I am a young man. I don't want to be died. I don't want to die and then they will write an epitaph on my distant tomb. Here lies the man who died because of hypocrisy. I reject that forcefully.
Thank you. Let me introduce Elikem Kotoko onto the show. He is a member of the NDC communications team, and he will have his submission on this one briefly because you are late, so that we can move on to the second topic, which has to do with the 100,000 presidential access fee. So deal with the issue of the budget, and then we can move on.
Thank you, Peter, and good morning to our viewers. And to my senior comrades as well. I want to seize this moment to first and foremost wish my little daughter happy birthday, Tonam. And indeed, I think I am not surprised at all whatever is happening in this country. One will ask why I'm saying so, but it is simply because the MPP has always been the very deceitful party that made it look as though they were the angels. And now they have taken power, and you and I are witnesses to what is happening. You see, when they were screaming on top of roofs that the NDC was incompetent and they were competent, one unfortunate mistake that Ghanaians made was that they failed to ask them what they were competent in or what they were competent at. Little did we know that their competency was in corruption, thievery, and all this industrial scale of embezzlement at all levels. And you see, it is so embarrassing and most unfortunate that as of this time, when we feel that as a nation we are supposed to be making progress, it appears now we are in reverse gear, and it is not helping for Ghanaians. The other unfortunate thing is that you will see most of their own grassroots or apparatchiks trying to either defend or be quiet. They are quiet not because they endorse what they are doing, but it's because they are also equally embarrassed and surprised that Nana Akufo-Addo, who promised them that, look, I'm going to provide jobs, I'm going to protect the public purse, has suddenly become the commander-in-chief. And I'm saying this without any fear, because you see, it appears every appointee that has been that comes out to even say anything now is just about corruption. So we have a president who can now be crystallized as a commander-in-chief.
Then we have others who are also deputy chiefs of staff. We have others who are also ministers responsible for special initiatives, where that initiatives may also translate into chiefs as well, and you can't tell what will happen next. And you see, if you want to catch the NPP, like Carlos Ahenkra said himself, just throw a bait to them, or just give them some little pressure, as he is saying, on the truth. When an issue crops up, each one of them begins to try to please their appointer. So this person comes to say one thing, the other also comes to say another, all in a bid to defend, but only to come to realize that they have caused so much mess behind themselves. So initially, I'm sure you recall Carlos Ahenkra stating that, it is true, those they wrote those cover letters, but the monies were handed over to the MEF, the Millennium Excellence Foundation. At another point, he began to change his position. Now then you have our own diplomat, respected diplomat, Beho, also commenting on that. Now when you come down to the budget also, which is all the substantive issue that we are discussing, you recall very well when the budget was presented, minorities stood its ground that, look, what you have presented to us is actually very shallow. It lacks the credentials of what should be called a budget. But they felt that, well, let minority have its say and we will also have our way. And yes, they had their way indeed. But what are we seeing today? That is the gross incompetence that has been displayed now with what has been presented to us, which we have no choice but to still call a budget, though, even though it makes mockery of we Ghanaians. When you look at this whole budget, there are more than too many questions to be asked than what Ghanaians ought to have done. Hope is not strategy enough. And you see, people have always held on hope that, look, we believe strongly that this will go on well, things will do. But it is not the way we want it, and that is not going the way with this. The government is confused itself. The finance minister is one of the most embarrassing ones we have seen or witnessed in history. But you see, in the end, they kept mentioning names, crystallizing themselves, tagging themselves as Harvard, being Harvard trained, coming from Yale, Oxford, and all that. If this is what the product of Harvard, Yale, Oxford, etc. will be displaying at the floor of the house, will be displaying to Ghanaians, then I'm so sorry. I would prefer to continue to have my education in Ghana, where I believe that the greatest of competence will be displayed at all levels, rather than the so-called big schools, big names. I am so sure that even by now, if given the opportunity, those big institutions would wish to disassociate themselves or disown these alumni of their institutions, because it has not helped us in any way. And when you look at the entire budget, there's absolutely nothing good to talk about it. Right from when it was introduced to the floor of Parliament, minorities stood its ground and made it known that, look, this, and that were all not good. Take it back and do your work well. But because of the arrogance and the pride within the NPP, that they are made of a special God and we are of a lesser God, there's no way we, the second-class citizens, can correct what they, the first-class citizens, think is right. And this is what they are now showing to us. I am equally also very happy somehow that this is happening, because it equally affords the average Ghanaian the opportunity to now be able to tell for himself or herself, you were saying these people are that. This is what you are doing now. If you are saying that you were better off and this is what you are displaying, which is your better, then we are better off of what we had. And mind you, don't forget that in the process when they always kept saying that we were incompetent, each time they said NDC was incompetent, they forgot they kept raising the bar of competency. Yeah. So they kept raising the bar so much that they forgot it was a high jump, and they've raised the bar now as to the level of a pole vault. And there's no pole for you to even use to jump. And now they are there crawling, crying wolf, asking for help. And you see, I'm not sure if you saw this picture that was on social media a week ago, where Dr. Baumia tweeted on his own handle, even stating, we need all people on board to build the economy and all that. Yes. Funny enough, Baumia, very funny enough, the once very loud Baumia, who was like flies over garbage, suddenly has become bereft of ideas that he is requesting that all should come on board. I thought Dr. Baumia was the greatest economic doyen that God gave the mother Ghana and the continent of Africa. And suddenly, Baumia on his own cannot do anything. And you see, when you look at this budget and aligning it with the issues of corruption and all that, the presidency cannot in any way absolve itself from what is happening. You do not mean to tell me that you are presenting a budget, for instance, we'll come to some of the other issues, where the presidency will want to say that I am not aware or we are unaware of what is happening in this or that. It cannot be the case. But that is the irony of the NPP. And we are still learning. I believe that Ghanaians will be the greatest learners in this process because, like someone would say, collective yakoto black and white. Now they are confused. They have confused us, but we refuse to be confused because we knew what their agenda was, to just come, create, loot, and share. And you see, the interesting thing was that they knew their capabilities. Actually, their capabilities was their incapability of handling this economy. So before they came to power, they started branding us incompetent because that was a strong word that they felt we shouldn't use on them when they come to power. So they started branding us rather as incompetent, as corrupt, as this and as that. Now you are in power. You dare not even tell a minister that he's incompetent. He will tell you that you are abusing him, you are insulting him, and all manner of things. And the so-called prophets of neutrality have suddenly been either quiet or tried to preach goodness. And where does this work? What is good for the goose is good for the gander. So let us stop the hypocrisy of trying to make it look as though they are in difficulty. Let us all come aboard. Yes, we'll come aboard. I think you would agree with me that the current opposition and minority that we have has been the most potent ever in the history of Ghana. That will not let anything go without scrutiny. And yes, we've always provided alternatives and all that. But are these people ready to listen to whatever you want to tell them? They are not. And so this is where we are. We are at the crossroads. Government itself is confused and cannot tell the people, but they will have to still be in there and be muddying the waters every now and then. So we are where we are, and this is what the MPP is actually capable of. Nothing beyond this. In summary, when you look at the whole budget, I believe that even my little daughter, who is celebrating her birthday today, will be able to find faults. Now that we can even tell on authority that a single ministry of this government in preparing its budget will cost us 2 million. The only challenge maybe my daughter will have will be difficulty in pronouncing all the huge figures. But we'll be able to tell. Where in that same budget, for instance, you will notice that there was somewhere they are supposed to write policies and they wrote policies or something. Yeah. I mean, you cannot allow for such faults. You can't allow such faults in a budget that is someone is charging you 2 million Ghana cedis. Oh, for God's sake! And only God knows how many schools we can build with that, how many boreholes we can build with that, and what other good things can come out of that. But I think that the greater challenge lies with the Ghanaian, especially the youth. It is not for nothing that within the content of our anthem and our pledge, we have that excerpt which says that we must resist oppressors' rule. And I think the NDC should not shy away from leading the charge in ensuring that we resist with all our might and might this oppressors' rule. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elikem Kotoko. He is a member of the NDC communication team. It's 11 o'clock on the dot. We have just about an hour more to go, and we will move straight to the second issue for this morning, and that has to do, you remember, the Palava newspaper was the first paper to carry this very story, and that has to do with some between $15,000 to $100,000 that was paid or extorted, let me use the word, from expatriates just to have a seat near the president, and this generated quite a lot of outrage and hue and cry, both on mainstream media and of course on social media, and not just on these media, but of course even on the streets, people have been talking about it. Eduji made reference to the BBC publication on this very issue. Quite apart from that as well, there's been the spillover, and the spillover has to do with the near attack, physical attack, on Honorable Okujeto Ablakwa by the Deputy Minister responsible for Trade and Industry, Carlos Ahinkra. So you have some 15 minutes to do this.
Okay, it's just unfortunate I have to leave for. Okay. Yes, let me state that on the issue of what happened between he and Comrade Okujeto, once he has apologized, if the apology is genuine and accepted by Comrade Okujeto, I don't think that I would have much to say on it. Of course, in politics, people do engage in all manner of things, slips, and sometimes at the stroke of the event, you may lose your temper and will engage in something. So for me, once he has apologized, I really don't think that I would want to belabor that issue that much. But what I can say is that his anger was understandable. It was understandable because he seems to be the one who handled that particular, fraud at the Ministry of Trade and Industries, because he was the one who wrote the letter, all the correspondence between the participants and the ministry was signed by him. The communication that was sent out, prior to the event taking place was a communication that had his thumbprints. So it's understandable. So he felt personally, being exposed. But my simple, advice to my brother is that you are not the only person who is being exposed. Your entire government is exposed. That fraud was not perpetrated by only you. It was perpetrated by everybody, including the seat of government. You remember when the issue first broke, the first response we got from official domain government was that such a thing had never happened. You remember when the story broke? They said, oh, nothing like that has ever happened, and that it wasn't true, it was fabricated. And if you listen to MPP communicators on the day and the next day, they all went to town with this grabbiest, and amateurist communication strategy that no, this thing was not true, it was the MPP. They thought we were making references to just an imaginary goat. They didn't understand that we were holding the testicles of the goats in our arms, in our hands firmly. Yes, I mean honestly, frankly, it's a proverb that they thought we were talking about an imaginary goat. They didn't know that we were holding the testicles of the goats firmly in our hands. So when they got to realize that we had the testicles firmly in our hands, the narrative quickly changed. They said, oh, it was a normal practice by the Ministry of Trade. And that is why I describe the description of my brother, Carlos Oyenkra, and the government appointees and communicators as completely amateurists. And I can now understand why people would describe them as a response to babies with sharp teeth. People would describe them as babies with empty brains. They are not even smart enough to come out with an intelligent communication strategy that would cover up their lies. But it's understandable that when you take lies as a part that you charter, you find it extremely difficult to be able to avoid some of these things. And again, the reaction of Carlos to Comrade Okujeto, fits perfectly into the proverb that when they shout that someone has stolen saltpeter at the market, and then someone started running, clearly people will know who the real thief is, because say someone has stolen saltpeter and then you start running. And I think that what Carlos did was that he started running when they shouted for the thief who stole the saltpeter, and that is understandable. Now, when they came out with that lies, I mean a fat lie that it was a normal practice, they were not smart enough to have realized that they themselves have issued statements at the ministry indicating that what had happened was a novelty, and that the Ministry of Trade and Industries has never, in fact prior to what they did, never organized such a thing, that we have never had awards for expatriate, or foreign businesses in Ghana. And it's true, the Ministry of Trade has never done that. So how can something that is a novelty, that a thievery and extortions in that novelty becomes a normal practice? I mean, that is the first question. Right. Novelty means it has never happened. You started it. So how can you start something for the first time? Yet when people expose thievery, and you say, oh, that thievery is a normal practice. So that is one. Two, if it was a normal practice at the Ministry of Trade and Industries, why would the ministry, start running away from that particular extortion? If it was a normal practice, you say, okay, it's a normal practice. It's been done at the ministry, so you wouldn't run away. That's another point. The third point is that if it is a novelty, why would the presidency start distancing and insulating themselves from that extortion and robbery? So certainly it could not have been a novelty. But let me also use your medium to categorically state it in an absolute and equivocal terms that the Ministry of Trade never engaged in that thing as far as I'm concerned. Perhaps when the MPP was in power between 2000 and 2008, they would have been engaged inside, because for them, they engage in all manner of fraudulent deals. So that I may not know. But as far as I'm concerned, long before I went to the ministry, under the Prof. Mills's administration and President Mohammed's administration, and even under the administration of former President Rawlings, between 1992 to 2000, the Ministry of Trade never engaged in such outright robbery. That point must be made very, very clearly. So the moment we shut that down, they abandoned that second story of it being a normal practice, and they cling on like a drowning man. He will cling on anything. They cling on to another story. But you see, when the ministry issued a statement, an official statement, in which the minister, Honorable Alan Chilmantin, stated palpably that he was unaware of such charges, and that the charges were negotiated between the so-called event organizer and the Flagstaff House. This was an official statement issued by the Ministry of Trade. Now, when I heard that the Flagstaff House invited the Minister for Trade to come and answer, I was flabbergasted. I was flabbergasted because, why would you ask someone to come and answer when the person had already issued an official statement distancing themselves? Not only that, when the official statement was issued, the runner of the shout of saltpeter thief in the market, my brother Carlos Ohenkra, spoke on several radio stations, reiterated what was stated in the statement issued by the Ministry of Trade, and that they were just facilitators, and that the negotiations and everything was done between the so-called event organizer and the Flagstaff House. Now, so when they said they invited the minister, I said, look, it was a useless invitation. It was rubbish. Nothing was going to come out of it, because the Flagstaff House knew what they were doing. It is possible that the president might not have known about those charges, but he can't pretend not knowing that his office was unaware. He can't. They can't feign innocence, and that was precisely what they attempted doing. So once again, I knew, as a scandal clearing agent, they were going to clear the Minister for Trade and Industry, and so they did. Now, it is also important for us to understand how such events are organized. The Ministry of Trade have had awards nights for Ghanaian industries every year. I happened to have indeed participated I participated in all when I was at the Ministry of Trade, and in instances where my minister was so busy engaged in other equally important activities, whether outside the country. In fact, there was a time Dr. Spill Gabriel could not. He was not in Ghana. He was attending, I think, WTO. I had to represent the ministry. There is another, and at no point in time did we ask anybody to finance anything. At no point in time. There is another award that goes on every year in Kumasi, and that one is organized by Kumasi Industries in Kumasi in Ashanti region. So usually they invite the Ministry of Trade and Industries to come and represent, help in the awards. I have participated in one of such events at the Golden Tulip Hotel in Kumasi. I think the last one, about two of the events that I participated in, and it's not organized, financed by the Ministry of Trade. Now, if you look at the issues, if you understand how events like that are organized, anytime any ministry or agency is organizing an event in which His Excellency the President will be in attendance, the ministry would have written to the President, the office of the President, informing him about the event and the need for the President to be in attendance, or his rep. Now, the reason is that you would have done this almost a month, because the President's program lineup is all detailed. I don't know. These people, everything is haphazardly done. Under the NDC, by the beginning of the year, you would have known what His Excellency President Mahama was going to engage in the entire year. Of course, it was not cast in iron or stone. You could change certain things depending on the prevailing circumstances at any point in time. I want to believe that good practice would have been followed by the current moribund Flagstaff House and its management, that they would have written to them. The reason why you would have to write to the presidency longer before the event, so that they can find out whether the president or the vice president, depending on their schedule, can participate in the program. And once that thing is done, having written to them and all these things are done, the presidency can change even the date. They can say, okay, on this day, the president really would want to participate. He wouldn't want to be represented. But on this day, the president will not be available, so change it. Because you work at the behests of His Excellency the President,
right,
and then you can change it. Now, the moment all these things are done and the date is set, you know why? When you are writing to the president, you would have indeed given the presidency a detail of the program. Then they will have a planning committee, a subcommittee. They will get someone from the Flagstaff House to work with an officer at the ministry,
right,
in preparation. Now, the issues of sitting arrangement is exclusively underlined, controlled by the presidency, the state protocol, and national security. That is what happens. On the issue of how the sitting arrangement is going to be done, is not determined by the ministry or the agency. It is determined by the state protocol and the national security. It's so detailed that even the tables, the table that is going to be on the right hand side, the left hand side, or the back of the president's table will be determined by the state protocol and the national security. Who are going to sit on those tables, all will be predetermined. Because you are talking about the safety and the protection of His Excellency the President. All of those things will be determined.
Right.
As a matter of fact, those we are inviting, if the presidency sees that for the purposes of security and safety, such a person ought not be invited, they will tell you not to invite the person. Now, when all these things are done, before the president comes to the program, they set up the place the night before the event. And the moment the place is set, the entire place is cordoned by national security. They would be there. No one can either enter in except the security apparatus and those who have a responsibility to do that. No one comes out. They will guide the place till the following morning, till the time the event is going to take place. They will only leave there after the event, after the president leaves. Because we are talking about the protection of the number one citizen of this country. So all these things are done. Now, on the very day, even the agenda, it has to be vetted and approved to tailor into what the presidency would want it to be. On the very day the event takes place, before the president takes his seat, he would have known. In fact, it's so detailed that the president will know who will sit on the same table with him, who will sit on his right hand side or the left hand. He would have known. Now tell me that you have a president, the vice president, and their spouses sat on a table with faces they have never seen. They have never met. They don't know those people from Adam. And they felt so comfortable to sit with them. And the reason why this thing matters is that as the president sits, there are some uninformed communications that may go on. The president can just make a statement which will border on either national security or the safety of this country that you wouldn't want any foreigner or anybody to know. And that is why it is selective. Even instances where the minister who is supposed ideally to sit with the president, and the president, the national security and state protocol thinks that the minister should not sit on the same table, the minister would have to sit on a different table. The president went in for a program, sat on the same table with the vice president and their spouses, with other people they don't know, and it's normal, and they want to feign innocence. I think they should come with the next joke. The other issue has to do with the fact that the speech, even the speeches that are going to be read by other speakers, would have to be vetted. Now, the speech usually will be written by the ministry, because you know the detail of the program, submitted at the Flagstaff House, sometimes a month before the program. And then the Flagstaff House will look at it if they need to add certain things. Even the speech of the president the minister would ought to be vetted, because any surprise can spring up. The president must know. Now, in that speech, the president stated that I will protect your businesses. Now, the invitation that was signed by my brother Carlos Ahinkra indicated that yes, if you pay this 100,000 and sit on the same table with the president, you would also have a subsequent private meeting with the president at a date and a place chosen. So they were not just paying to sit, they also have access. Another funny story that came about, I think the MD for Japan Motors.
Yes.
That man should not engage in politics. He should be told. You didn't sit on the didn't sit on the same table with the president. Now those who sat on the same table with the president and paid. So if you didn't sit on that same table, you couldn't have paid $100,000. Because we're told that those who sit on the same table, you have a businessman who is doing his business.
He said he didn't pay 1 CD.
His word.
Yeah.
And the monies lodged in the accounts of the ministry. You think I should believe his word? And the monies lodged in the accounts of the ministry. Why did they conjure the money, or they had some money maker somewhere, spiritualists who brought the money and dumped the monies into the accounts? It is not he who should explain to us whether indeed people paid monies or not. It is the letters that were written, the correspondence that were written. The payment of money extortions confirmed by the ministry, and the deputy minister confirmed. You remember on the very day this event was going on, my brother Ibrahim Ajay sat on Metro TV and said that, the monies were even paid to the event organizer. He didn't know that the monies have been lodged into the accounts of government. He didn't even know that. Now there's another funny story. The organizer of that particular, that so-called event organizer, who came and said, no, it wasn't the Flagstaff House that did that. I did that. Rubbish. Did they pay the monies into accounts? And in any case, if assuming without admitting that the event organizer did everything, so the event organizer had the power to determine who sits on the same table with our president, I think that His Excellency the President, he should remember that his handlers don't care about his safety. His appointees simply do not care a bupkis about the safety of the president. I say this because, so it means that any terrorist can pay $100,000 and have access to our president. That is what it means. Now, assuming this thing went unnoticed, there would have been subsequent programs in which the president would have attended. Those people behind this could have done more. So what it means is that if you pay $100,000, you sit on the same table with the president. If you pay $200,000, you sit on the laps of the vice president. If you pay $300,000, you have the opportunity to sit on the laps of our president. And perhaps, if you pay $400,000, guess what you get? Because clearly, that is what is being demonstrated. We are talking about, yes, perhaps, we are talking about the sanctity of the office of the president. It must not be desecrated. And what we are saying is that if President Nanado and his government do not care a bupkis about the office of the president, we want it to be maintained. So inshallah, in 2020, we win back power and maintain that office. I am saying that this is nothing but outright robbery. This is thievery. I have listened to another funny argument. Oh, in America, some of these things happen. America, they have what they call the lobbyists, which is legal. And their conduct and operations are regulated by the state. We don't have lobbies here. Lobbying is illegal. In Ghana, as far as I'm concerned, it's illegal, it's not appropriate, yet you can have some of those things happening. And I am saying that this story and this attempt to feign innocence by the Flagstaff House, they should give that story to someone else. I can't conclude without also joining my brother to wish his
my daughter,
his daughter Etonam a happy birthday.
The family.
And in fact, it's very important. I think that I know him personally. In fact, I have been to his house, and it so happened that some of his kids were my very good friends. I remember when I was in NYEP, he called me once to assist one of the kids. A gentleman, there is no question at all about that. At the Ministry of Youth and Sports, when he was the deputy minister, then I was with NYEP. Yeah. We worked directly with him, very calm, very honest, very sincere, very intelligent. And I think it's unfortunate that we have lost such a person. What we can only do is to send our sincere condolences to the Bree family, particularly the wife and then the kids, and let them understand that their husband, their brother, their son, their father didn't die in vain. At least he contributed his bit towards the development of this country, and we can only pray that he's received in the bosom of his creator.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Comrade Mutala Mohammed, there for that submission. I would now want to introduce Dr. David Percy, who has just joined us in the studio, he's a student of history, and so since we are on the second topic, which of course he's very passionate about, I'll just allow him to proceed to look at the 100,000 presidential access fee and matters arising or relating to that. Doc, you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry to join you. I almost didn't join you at all, but it's always a pleasure to be here. You say that I'm passionate about something. Well, anyway, maybe you can, combine both issues.
That's
really.
okay, that's okay.
Yeah, because we are dealing with
The budget?
public expenditure.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, there's a very simple truth that if you can't spend the money, it is very difficult to steal. So you must come up with inventive ways of spending the money. And one must hand it to the MPP. They don't have any challenges in our country in terms of their inventiveness. And is it smart ways, right? Smart ways of spending and accessing the public purse. But there's a general point that has to be made. Paying for access is called lobbying in other places. Did I hear someone say that in Ghana lobbying is illegal? Okay. Now, the other point that can be made is that all politics that is founded on patronage, that is the politics of big men and small boys, or the politics of party lords and foot soldiers, however you describe it, however well-intentioned, however it starts, can only be sustained in the end through corruption and the looting of the public purse. This is a position that has to be clearly underlined. And the simple truth is that all our parties, as they currently exist, all the parties that I know that are active, perhaps except the one that we try to form, which has become moribund, are founded on patronage. So just as a matter of principle, so long as parties rest on patronage, the party lords, the big men, must find the money. Okay, and the money comes from all kinds of ways. Okay, we have routine ways and we have increasingly more innovative ways, like for instance what we're talking about now, which is payment for access to the president. Okay, in point of fact, it's always been there. Okay, people have made money as gatekeepers. Okay, in controlling access to the president. Okay, there's one recent president who in fact told people that if they control access to him and they didn't make good, they have no business blaming him. Okay, and there's one case of a recent press secretary, someone to the president, who publicly said that he never collected a salary. He said so publicly that he never collected a salary. Okay, until he resigned to, I think, become one of the 17 who were vying to fill the president's place. So these things are part of the architecture of quote-unquote corruption. So we cannot claim or pretend not to know, except that in our annals, perhaps this is the first time it is rising to this level and now being given or an attempt is being given to give it an official stamp of approval. Okay, because the arguments have made that, look, this is something that happens. It's a convention that has been established. But clearly this is an innovation. Now, but I make all these points. I mean, the fact that we cannot talk or we cannot support the kind of politics that we have and then turn around to complain about the logical consequences that if parties exist whose memberships do not make contributions to financing party, okay, first of all, parties are organs or instruments built on commitment, ownership to a cause, to a program founded on a certain vision of society or the hereafter. Okay, organizations, okay, whether they are church organizations may be founded on the hereafter, but political organizations are founded on commitment to a program here. Okay, either to a program of building heaven on earth or for everybody, or creating heaven for a select few and hell for everybody else. Okay, however they start, that's the nature of what we have. So we cannot tolerate it, we cannot accept it, at the same time claim to be surprised or shocked by the logical flow from it. Okay, so in that sense, our president Nana Addo is not in a lonely company. He's in a company with many others, both here and globally. But one of the points I need to make before I forget is that less than a year ago, about a year ago, before the MPP came into government, the MPP, Sen Nana Addo, lost no time in making the president responsible for whatever acts of corruption, real or imagined, were claimed to have occurred. But I realized that almost 1 year into government, our president, his party, with the able help of the NDC, has been able to put himself above everything. So even here, NDC communicators saying that, is the president's appointees. I remember that on many occasions, our president pointed out that fish rots from the head. That he lost no time, whether it was the Kasua interchange, is it interchange?
Yes.
Or the presidential diaries, okay, or even in the case of the Ford gift, okay, in naming our president then as being directly responsible. I listen to NDC communicators and they are struggling. They are going around in circles. They are chasing after the shadows of deputy ministers and even trying to say that, this minister is not part of it. You have no business saying that. The simple and sad truth is that all this thing is being orchestrated from the seat of government under the leadership of our president. Finito. And what is going on now is an attempt to manufacture a cover-up. You understand? Now, whenever you have to come up with a cover-up, you must come up with useful idiots. No, it's very important. People who care very little about their reputation, who believe that their reputation can be expended in the cause of a greater good. Okay? So, you find this hapless Is it the CEO or is it the
Yes, the president.
the Millennium?
The president of the
Yes,
Millennium
okay.
Excellence
And
Foundation.
I remember as a kid, this is a conversation I had. That under the Osagifo, nobody was allowed to call himself president for such an occasion, where some useful idiot could claim that if we see president anywhere, we are talking about him. No, it's a serious matter. So when we were growing up, I don't know whether it was law, but certainly it was the convention that you could not refer to yourself as president of anything. There was only one president in Ghana. Of course, those days are happily gone for some people. So we can hear this cock and bull story about someone saying that if you read anything about president in this whole business, it was him as president of the Millennium,
Excellence Foundation.
Great. And that these eminent businessmen, people who are supposed to have made powerful contributions to our well-being, were paying to sit next to him with the offer of follow-up, is it follow-up dinner?
Yes.
Yes.
All
And
right.
why in the name of Allah will such people, intelligent people, people who don't throw their money about, pay to sit with him? And it goes on and on and on. But of course, they know that the Ghanaian people, or they believe that the Ghanaian people are stupid and daft. Because if they are not, they would not have elected a crook as president. Okay? And even now I hear people struggling to say that, even on this Your Very Show, I think one of the contributors said that, our president is acclaimed to be incorruptible. Where did that come from? Who manufactured that falsehood? Because we have the findings of a Ghanaian High Court that found that our president, then Minister of Justice, and two other persons demanded to be paid so that they facilitate the payment of judgment debt. It's the findings of a Ghanaian High Court. It is known to your party, to the NDC. It beats my imagination why a party like the NDC will keep this under wraps. And for even communicators of the party to say that our president is an acclaimed, what is it? But of course, it is very easy to manufacture these things. Of course. Now, what are we landed with? We have a president who threatened his way to power, who made preparations for civil war if he did not win, who was ably assisted by the MPP propaganda machine and the they don't like to be called as such, the media, what do you call them?
The paracheeks?
No.
Oh, cabals.
Cabal, the media cabal, yes. Okay. And of course, the president has lost no time since his victory, at least in naming and recognizing them. At least he's done that on at least 2 or 3 occasions I can recall. He's named them to wild applause. Okay. And I've still heard on this your program someone speak about neutrals. I don't know who did, but please be informed. There are no neutral persons in politics. They don't exist. They've never existed. They never will be. There are no neutrals in politics. There are people who pretend to be neutral whilst working actively to let whatever side they are on down, to betray them. But they are essentially Trojan horses and traitors. Okay? No such things exist. Whether they are wearing the garments of bishops or I don't know what to say. I mean, it's a very simple truism that no neutrals exist in politics. And if anybody says that he's neutral, that person is either a fraudulent person or is a crook. None such exists, and we must never fall into the temptation. I also hear people saying that, look, why isn't so and so speaking? Why must he speak?
Reference former President Rawlings.
Fine, I haven't heard someone speak about the wife. The wife has formed a party. She's claimed, but she and their co-founder, that is also your founder at the same time, claim that their object is to throw you out of power. And I still see and hear people making claims and references to them. I mean, this must be the height of folly. Look, they've stated, the actions tell you very clearly where they are. And don't be mistaken by where you thought they were 10 years ago. Okay? And of course, in making this one, I would like to repeat a point that actually President Rawlings made in Cape Coast. Now look, he was talking about the MPP and saying that everybody knew who they were, and that they were very comfortable. Their names have changed over the years, from the NLM, which you don't mention, through the UP, through Progress Party. Now, what is it? There was what? Is it Popular Front? What was it? No. Before, in the time of the PMP, there was they had a name. Was it a Popular Front? No. The party that was led by Victor Owusu. What was the name of the party? UNC. Victor Owusu?
Oh, the UNC.
Was it UNC?
Yeah.
No. It wasn't the UNC.
Really?
Wasn't the UNC? I think it was Wuli who was in the UNC.
UNC, okay.
I missed a bit of that part of that period because I wasn't in town.
Okay.
But the MPP under Liman had a different name. Okay. Whatever name they've had, their character has been the same. And he also made the point that they are happy with it. Okay. The NDC hasn't changed its name, but its character has been transformed. And that is really the issue. It hasn't changed its name, but its character has been transformed. Okay. Now, Mr. Rawlings is very happy to be with his roots. And I think you guys should let him be and move on.
Okay.
Okay?
Right.
But back to the main issue.
You land for me.
I think
we have just 20
you like
minutes
me.
more.
20 minutes.
We are just 20 minutes more to
right.
end, yes. So we have 2 more.
I'm only beginning to enjoy myself. Okay. But the final point. So we have through the administrations, the general administrations of pastors, men of God, and the most wild and flamboyant promises, handed over the administration of the hen coop to the fox. We have no business crying. We just have to live with it for the next 3 more years. And I can bet you, because they have succeeded in whitewashing and covering up one crime after another, you are guaranteed to see more gargantuan scandals as you go forward. I can promise you that.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. David Percy. He is a student of history as to when he's going to graduate from that school. Okay. So he tells me that it is a permanent school. I'm not so sure when he's going to graduate from that school. I will come to you, Elikem Kotoko, and just some 10 minutes, and then we'll move to lawyer Godwin Eduji Tamaklo.
Thank you so much, Peter. You think one interesting thing about the NPP that I have consistently said is that, look, give them a new page any day, every week, there will be a new scandal that will occur in this country. Before I even come to the substantive issue, if you recall, before former President Rawlings left office, you agree with me that little did anybody care about property owning. Little did anybody care about even buying a land, building a house, and all of that. But from 2000 to 2008, when the NPP took over, they gradually crafted and masterminded the process of getting you and I to come to believe that I also need land, I also need building, I also need property. And right after 2008, you realize everybody, today, even the JHS student, is beginning to save money in order to buy land before he even gets to senior secondary school. So don't be surprised. But however, it gives reason for we in the NDC in particular to make sure that we continue to expose every rot that this government is doing in order to ensure we safeguard the sanctity of this country. But you see, come to talk about this whole thing. Does the MPP know shame at all? That in no other month than December, when Christ was born, we are most likely to now tag December as the most corrupt month of this year, thanks to President Nana Akufo-Addo, his vice president, and his appointees, who have all just decided to join the bandwagon of thievery without any shame. You see, when this 100,000 seat saga started, like you rightly said, I was on set on one of the sister TV stations, and Palava broke the news. All their media guys, their communication guys were not on top of issues, so they had no choice than to just say it's not true.
Okay, the name you're looking, Popular Front Party.
Yes. You see, so they said, oh, it is not true. Oh, well, they discredited the Palava newspaper to the extent that if it was prior to the 2016 elections, you would have witnessed what our dear brothers and sisters, the nurses, did by stamping on some of the uniforms of campaign materials of the NDC. They just didn't want to hear the name Palava because they felt that, no, the news was discredited. But what are we seeing today? News that is not true has actually taken all of them out of their various seats and their various offices in one way or the other to be throwing salvos, to be defending themselves. And at another point, some of them, even a deputy minister who felt most scandalized, nearly turned the studio into a boxing ring to actually assault his comrade or his fellow honorable member of parliament, Honorable Samuel Ablakwa. Well, I'm told he has apologized. But to me, we cannot keep accepting just mere apologies and say, let us let it go. Because he did. I think he did.
I think it's important to state on record that Honorable Carlos Ahinkra has not apologized to Honorable
he hasn't.
Samuel
Okay.
to Ablakwa.
The better it even makes the story. Because the point is that I believe that Honorable Sami Ablakwa should take this matter up and ensure that it is followed to its logical conclusion. Because don't forget that even the likes of Mbugri Nabu, etc., made certain very scandalous statements relating to even death or murder. They had to just apologize, and that was it, and we have to move on as a nation. We cannot become a nation of just apologies. Because we already have a group of people who have just become an apology. Now, when this $100,000 seat issue came up, don't forget that I would say it was even on the premise of the fact that already we were made to know from none other than themselves that to have access to the president, not to the presidency, to the president, one will have to pay gate fee of $30,000. Well, a certain police officer was assigned to deal with that issue. Eventually, she also compromised her integrity. But eventually, like Dr. Percy said, some people would always prefer to become useful idiots in certain times to be expended. And I guess someone offered himself or herself for that moment. And what did we see? The lady in question was promoted. She was actually given double promotion. And today, now there's news again about having to pay $100,000 before you sit with the president. Then we had one, the organizer of the program, come to tell us that he was even not he was not even aware, for instance, that the president was coming. That is an insult to the national security and to the president himself. That the president now acts just like an SRC president, or he acts like a bull-fruit seller. There's a program, and then he just bumps in and says, I'm the president and I'm coming to sit. Please give me your seat. Is that what governance has been reduced to? I pitied Alan Tremontin, because in the midst of all this, I do not know, are you aware, did he go for the said program himself? Was he there? He was. Good. But you see, you agree with me that it appears, and it is very obvious that the man Alan Tremontin that we are seeing today It's not the Alan Chemantin we knew back under the era of President Kufuor. The man's hands have been clipped at his back, making his deputies even more powerful than he himself. Then when the mess occurs, you invite him over to the presidency to come and answer to which question? The presidency is also now Ioko? Why is the president no longer referring some of these scandalous issues to the police? Why is the president contradicting himself? It cannot continue this way. And so for Alan Chemantin, I believe that these are just strategic actions to actually even mess him up the more. And it may be in his own interest to actually even tender in his resignation if he wants to protect the little dignity that is left with his name. Now, when you look at all this, I believe again that Ghanaians and all of us are very happy that this is a party or this is a government that assured us that they were coming up with this bill, the special prosecutor. I think they thought that by mere mention of those names, it was to let shivers run down our spine for no reason. In 1 year, this is how far the NPP government has brought us. That Peter, if you need to see the president of Ghana, you need to pay this and that amount. And as the damage has already been done, they are trying in various ways to find ways to resolve it by deploying their arsenals through the various guys who speak for them, and they have become the worst of contradictions in terms of even solving the situation. This person comes and says one thing or the other. The other comes and say another. And they have just realized the mess they've caused themselves. To the extent that they now have to even call the MD of Japan Motors to be one of their spokespersons. Someone who was not even at the table that is alleged to be paying the $100,000. But does he think we wash our face upwards because he knows what he wants? Does he think that Ghanaians expect him to come out boldly to say that, yes, I pay $100,000 to the people? When the ministry itself, through various people, Ibrahim Ajay, the Carlos Ahinkra himself, have confirmed that monies were paid, only to turn around again to tell us that monies were not paid, or to turn around to say that they were unaware of certain things. We are not kids in this country, for God's sake, and we mean serious business when we talk about governance. Not just coming to sit, speak big English, but not knowing what to do, or even to translate your own English to yourselves. You cannot tell me, for instance, that very highly respected ambassador, diplomat, Ambassador Victor Beho, who is chair also of the foundation, coming out clearly to also state that yes, monies were paid. That is from the horse's own mouth. And you see, the funny thing about the NPP is that whenever there are rot is yet to be exposed, everything just emanates from their own camp. Everything that is going to, it doesn't need to take the NDC to investigate vigorously to expose their rot, because there's wanton greed within themselves. So the very moment one person tries to outstep the other, somebody will be quick to blow the news for us. And like Dr. Percy said, look, this is just the first year. Next year will be much worse and much scandalous than you can ever imagine. I didn't know that under the present government, if you and I decide today or tomorrow to organize a program at the back of Radio Gold here, we could find a very interesting way to ask a Ministry of Trade, for instance, to write a cover letter for us. In that sense, then use the office of the president to extort monies from people and then say that the presidency is not aware, the ministry is not involved. I mean, you can't tell this cock and bull story to anybody on the street. This is not what Ghanaians voted for. The competency that they promised is not what they are displaying. And I think they should bow their heads in shame. But knowing them for who they are, the arrogance, the vindictiveness, the pride in them, which will never make them come down to our level to learn, but to always flaunt their wings and to show off that, look, we are the ones. Which is why Carlos Ahinkra could boldly tell his compatriot, a member of parliament, that we are in power and therefore I'll show you where power lies. What reckless statement could that be, coming from a deputy minister of state who is actually acting on behalf of the president? Look, the last two things I want to say before I to conclude is that as for the national security and state protocol, I'm so disappointed in them as well too, because having had the Ashimoton come out to make those statements that he was not aware that the president was coming, to the extent that he had to give his personal seat to the number one gentleman of this country to sit on. It's an insult to the state protocol and the national security. And I'm so disappointed that they have not picked him up by this time. They have not even issued a single statement to deny what he's saying, which means that it is true, and which should tell our number one man of this country, President Nana Akufo-Addo, just equal to the naked emperor on the street. Because if our president will go for programs and seats cannot be reserved for him, the whole environment cannot be swept for his protection, that he will just walk in and take any seat and sit on. He should just be careful that his own enemies within do not plant needles on the next seat they will give him, which will not be for him. And I only pity what situation he is in at that Flagstaff House. Could it also be that we have a president who is just the public figure called the president, but when it comes to the real administrative works, he is not the one in charge? And you see, I recall also on one of the sister stations, one of their candidates for going for one of the positions said categorically that, oh, how much is $100,000? Today the MPP is asking us how much is $100,000. They are in power now, and it says $100,000 is chicken change. And in all this, the silence of another one is Dr. Baumia. I feel so sorry for the situation he finds himself in, because he was the one who was used to champion the cause of the NPP to come into power. They made him look as though he held the magic wand to secure victory for them, and he helped them do it. Now, every now and then, things that keep happening, I'm so sorry, but he himself is just an errand boy in the Flagstaff House, where we have another who was making himself a prime minister. Thank God we have a very potent opposition that stood its ground to reject budgetary allocation to that ministry called the Ministry of the Senior Minister.
Okay. Thank you very much, Elikem Kotoko, for that submission. I would like to pick a few of your messages here, but I think I would have Eduji make his lawyer Eduji make his final submission on the issue of the $100,000 presidential access fee, and then I'll come back to read your messages, and then we can conclude the show. Lawyer.
When we were growing up, particularly in our respective villages, the various hunos in the various villages.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Periodically, if you needed to consult them, you needed to pay something by way of cola. Alo wagbobe nako agbon. Alo kuklare nako alo papahe zigede. For the first time, it is no longer papahe or goods. Bugri has taken all the goods. Now the president is now dealing directly in a situation where access to him is now being auctioned publicly. That is the level that our president has taken the disgrace to. Now, you see, I have always maintained that when wisdom depart from you, your own stupidity is what will kill you. When this matter started, and once again, the good old palaver that took the Kufuor administration out of power, again brought this story out. What was their first line of defense? Oh, no. Oh, no. This ain't nothing of that sort. So it started with a denial. That's important. It started with a denial. Then when the documents were put out, signed by Carlos Ahinkra, Then the narrative changed because in that letter, it was clear as to the allocation. Black, blue, I mean, like seriously, gold. So from $100,000, $75,000, $50,000, and $25,000. So you could see clear. And if you look at the table where the president sat, only few people sat so close to him, with his own brother and the wife on the table. Sammy, my brother Peter, we have a situation where, if you recall the Last Supper, where Jesus dined with the 12 disciples, Nanado is telling Jesus that, look, you didn't know how to monetize.
Oh my goodness, energy.
Nanado is simply telling Jesus, the chief, with your vim and powers, do you know
The miracles.
the miracle? Do you know how much you would have made just by auctioning access to you? Do you think that if Judas had gotten the opportunity to extort $100,000 from anybody, he would have been tempted to take those little, amount to betray Jesus? Remember, you are the treasurer. It was money issue. Money issue. Today, and look at the document. The document clearly provided, and as signed by Carlos, that payment ought to be made in room 308 at the Ministry of Trade. Peter, at the Ministry of Trade. It's surprising that today a private individual goes to organize a program, and look at their third line of defense: sponsorship. So it was a denial first. Government has no involvement. Then now it is sponsorship to the individual. Today, Chief Alan Tremantin, Honorable, a man I respect so much for his gentleman distinct, he has been made to lie to the people of Ghana. He has to. Today, Alan, by his statement, admits that 2.3 million Ghana cedis was paid. Initially, they said no money. Now, 2.25 was paid to the presidency, and it was received at the Ministry of Trade, room 308. There was a person, officer placed there, who will receive and give you. When you pay, then they will give you the card that would allow you. So immediately the president protocol officers and security men see your card. They know that as for you, you are paid. Now, part of the arrangement, and it came as a full bouquet, Xmas, hamper. So the president had banned hampers, but he's taking it in a different form. No, I mean, yes, it was a President Mills. One would believe that they will continue, since governance is a continuity. But today, the president is taking his Christmas hampers in $100,000. And when you finish, what you have access. Beyond the personal access, you also have dinner with him. Then he'll bring you champagne. Our president like party. Hey, mama! So they'll call you dinner, private dinner with the president. So at that meeting, deals and others will be struck. And so what this thing does is that it raises a critical question of Article 218. The president is putting himself in a situation of conflict. He's putting himself in a situation to benefit from those private engagements, to make gain out of what? His public office. And this is serious. This is dangerous for this republic. So, for instance, assuming that Japan Motors MD was one of those who paid, the next time, like the Ministry of Special Initiatives has ordered for this V8 and 4x4. So the price, you see how the price is dealing, darling. The 100,000 will be placed on it. They'll scatter the 100,000 and then he will recoup his 100,000 back. You see how the scheme has been done. So this whole thing, access to the president, was to influence him. And and in fact, he had put himself in a situation to be influenced. Because the thing was done with his active participation. Do you know that the president was built to travel? So if you listen to, what shall I say, the Ashin Morton, he said that he had to give his seat to the president, which is a lie. Because at all material time, there was an issue whether or not the president will be able to attend the program or travel outside. But because at that time, the president had been informed that, in Krofono to escano 100,000 into one ma ebedaneka. Because in Krofono to escan no meba omumbe to unkuadie ebeka. So quickly, the president had to come. And that is why Ashimotin confirmed that they were not too certain whether the old man was going to come and that he had to give his seat to it. Can you imagine? Look, a letter written by Carlos Ahinkran, repeatedly president. The man said the president in that letter was him. Ashimotin. Tagboku kunya. Tagboku kumo Vito. Look, these people. What is that you are saying that? these people, they think that we are also. These people, they think we are Tiwi. Azu Ominya. No. Your Bonye Movito. They should not insult us further. A letter written. Written. I want to go to Volta now. A letter written. With president. You say he, Ashimoti, is the president in that letter. How can that be? When people, you see, there is one statement that...
Maybe he bought the presidency.
Very well. One statement that Pastor Mensa Otabil made, and I've always taken it and placed it on my heart. He said, when a man is in a deep hole, and his intention is to get out, he must stop digging. These people are in a shit hole and they are digging further. What they have reduced the presidency to is a platform to auction the influence of the president. And the danger is that it results in presidential patronage. The patronage politics being practiced under Nanado Dankwa Akufo-Addo is dangerous. And that is why I have stated here that the borehole that they plan going to construct or whatever, or sink or drill, will flow with cronyism, nepotism, corruption, and negativity. Look, you have a situation where today it is no longer, it is no longer a shame, but you have institutionalized extortion.
The new normal.
It's so normal now that you can publicly extort money from investor community. When the U.S. ambassador said it is difficult for investors to invest in Ghana because of these bureaucratic issues, payment, paying this. What he meant to say is what exactly? Because these expatriate communities, yes, every businessman, and I tell people, businessmen are not angels. Nkrumah made that profound statement. He said, with property owning democracy, human values are subordinate to profit. Every businessman is in to make what? Profit. So if a picture with the president will give him that access to a minister, can you imagine these businessmen who paid the $100,000 each, appeared before a DCE or a regulator, and they say, oh, Master, do you know that the last time I was the one who sat? This is the picture. He said, oh, are you the one? The one who paid the $100,000? Oh, chief, go. And that is exactly what was auctioned. And it had the active participation of the president himself. But you see, people don't know they don't know Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo well. When some of us were saying it, this is Nana Addo and the Fisano, mo sorry, and Namu didn't attempt, mo cancel. We say no, attempt the me and fancy me. Me didn't crop attempt. That be me did attempt. But I will tell you as it is, because I don't want one day my grave to have that inscription, here lies a hypocrite. That one I'll reject it. Let me read what their own Manasseh Azuri had written about the president. Give me this permission to do this reading. In his latest article written on the 20th of this month, he made a very startling revelation, a view that I, Eduji, had always maintained and I knew. And this is what he says. I beg, with the kind permission of our listeners. The first major allegation of corruption in your government was the shady sale of contaminated oil by the State Oil Board Company called BOST. The Minister of Energy, Boachie Ejako, set up a committee to investigate the matter. In less than a week, that same minister held a press conference to announce that the BNI had conducted an investigation and cleared the BOST managing director of any wrongdoing. It sounded strange, but that's how the case died. My sources, whom I have no reason to doubt, have told me that, Mr. President, you played a role in stopping the probing of the scandal. My sources say, when the minister set up the committee, you were not happy. My sources say, you were misled into believing that Boachie Ejako was on a vindictive warpath against the BOST MD. According to my sources, you called Boachie Ejako, reprimanded him for acting on such an important issue without your orders, and asked him to reverse the decision. The result is that shameful press conference the minister held to make a mess of himself and your government in the BOST scandal. Your body language towards corruption and your words are not in the same direction. So the president confused people, because you see his body moving towards one end and you see his action towards one end. And the conclusion, the irresistible conclusion, is that in the BOST contaminated fuel thing, the president himself was involved. His vice, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, was implicated. In fact, one source actually told me that they wanted to involve a senior person at the Ministry of Energy in the cover-up. The man said, no, I am willing to resign. He said, no, he won't. Because you, minister, you had come earlier to say that the man had done wrong. MPA had come out to say that the company that bought the oil was not licensed. So you have sold oil to a company not licensed. So the facts were clear. Daily Graphic front page. Then less than a week, the same person who had indicted the BOST MD comes and say, oh, BNI report. I challenge BNI. They should produce the report on the board. They don't have it. The whole thing was cooked at the presidency. So you know the Flagstaff House today has turned into a clearinghouse. A big pot. The Flagstaff House today has turned into a Chobo clearinghouse. Omotiteso editing. The Flagstaff House today has turned into a monumental dean of corruption. And Nana Addo himself is the one seated on top of the corruption. He's the one doing the procurement himself. And that is why this Millennium Excellent thing, when the scheme, they wanted to bring senior Gbeho into the whole brouhaha to make it look like, oh, there's a senior NDC. We reject it. He had nothing to do with it. The president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, actively participated in auctioning his influence to people. You know why? If you meet MPP people one-on-one and you talk to them, yes, you Nana say ya di obeba piu. Inti e kana no odi nyina no. E so omunye den, omun settle in them. And that the president says he's not coming back. You remember when the journalist asked him about the Galamsey question? Or say, if you are thinking that you're going to see me on the bar, some people are going to get disappointed. And that's how I ended it. So even he himself and the whole MPP, let me tell you, investors, businessmen, embassies are worried. Because the embassies are even telling their investors that they are not sure whether the government will go beyond 4 years. And so even investors are beginning to adapt a wait and see approach, because it is beginning to look clear that the president is just doing one term. And so you notice that almost all the mess, he brings Bamia in it so he can share with Chempe 50-50. And that is how the sorrowful state of the Republic of Ghana, where our president, to the extent that today he had gotten an enviable position on BBC. Go and look at BBC Pidgin. That story is the most trending story. The most expensive seat is now 100,000. Guinness Book of Record. Mr. President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, with the greatest respect to the high office you occupy, this is not what the 53% Ghanaians voted for. Now, in conclusion, we have done 1 year effectively under the MPP administration. Today, go and ask market women, ask them, how has been sales this Xmas? All of them are saying the Xmas is dull. For the first time, it is beginning to look like this time round, Joseph didn't encounter Mary Magdalene.
I love Radio Gold.
There had not been any encounter, and Jesus will not be born this Xmas. Hey! What wrong have we done? Akuko, look, can you believe that even goats, the guys, when you go to them, they are complaining. Osemasa, medi goat ibe fi boku. Because the Boku Poma road ni nyentino. Medi ba bedu boga. Nama bedu tamale. Abedu kumase. Abedu nkraino. Sika mitua, even for policemen, and checkpoint or kwan, you bet you sika sa mabedu akrano, meet me farmer at the same price. I have to increase it. Look, go down and talk to our market women, the onion people, the women who sell onion. Speak to them. The tomato sellers, speak to them. Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo had brought what the accounts will say, Oyene, pain into this country. But let me have a message to Ghanaians. If you have hope that 2018 is going to be better, we have seen the budget for 2018. That budget for 2018 is the one that has allocated over 1 billion Ghana cedis to the presidency for the special initiatives programs for the presidency, and not you.
Okay.
Nana Addo, his appointees, as a result of cronyism, as a result of nepotism, they are the only people who are going to celebrate the Christmas, because all the allocation they have made for the first time in the history of this country. Even baby mamas, is that not how they call it?
Baby mamas.
But a baby mama, I want to go to America a little bit. Even baby mamas today are getting appointments. I have never seen this one before. Is that the change Ghanaians voted for?
Okay.
The corruption under this administration is annoying.
Right. Just land. Thank you so much, lawyer Godwin Eduji Tamaklo, and thank you so much, my wonderful panelists who made time to be here. It's unfortunate we can't have any more dog. Yes, we've run out of time. We've taken 15 minutes of the sports time already, so we'll have to end it here. But before that, I think I've got a couple of messages here that I would like to read before that. No.
Just 10 seconds.
Okay.
On behalf of my good self, and I'm sure the regional executives, even though my chairman will be doing that more formally, I want to solemnly express my deepest condolence to one of our very calm MPs, a former party officer, a man who stood up for the party even in opposition, the Honorable Ni Norte Dua. as a comrade, I am confident that he is resting in the very restful place of our Lord Jesus. Once again, on behalf of myself, I want to express my condolence to the family of Honorable Ni Notidia.
Right.
It is well.
Thank you so much. This one here says, just pick a couple of your messages, WhatsApp messages, and then I can call it a day. Good morning, Peter. I will be very disappointed if the NDC, I'll be very disappointed if the NDC does not capitalize on this corruption situation and continue ringing this bell till 2020. I will never vote for this party again. What has happened to the 800 million to 35 million profit, 80 million Ghana cedi to 35 million profit made on the 1 million oil sold? Dr. Nyalolo sent that one in. This one here says, Yao Buedu in Osu, thank you very much. Popular Front Party, you sent. This one here says, Radio Gold, where is the Methodist Reverend Bosomchi from Takwa, who turned himself into an MPP Osofo, Reverend Minister, who always found fault with the NDC? Reverend, please come out now. Kwesi in UK sent that one in. Kwesi Asare in UK sent that one in. Julius Agahoa from and Tahiru says, when the MPP were in opposition, Dr. Baumia told us that the most powerful mechanized boreholes, like the one he built for Wale Wale Hospital, cost 50,000 Ghana cedis, and any amount above that for the same project was inflated. Today we are being told that the borehole the Ministry of Special Initiative intend to construct will cost as high as 132,000 Ghana cedis, over 60% increase in the price. Now the NPP wants us to accept it because the real owners of Ghana are ruling. Is this a change they promised Ghana? Change has really come. Indeed, change the bad change, he adds. That did not come with a name. Now, anytime a minister has to be invited to explain to the president at the Flagstaff House, demonstrates the senior minister's uselessness. Uncle Sam in Spintex sent that one in. Okay, that's quite an interesting point you're making there. This one here says, good morning. It's very sad. Okay, quite a very long one. Akpabli Maxwell Mamubi, I'll just read a bit or two. A line or two, and it says, it's very sad to be a Ghanaian under Nana Akufo-Addo Baumia-led administration, looking at how they're milking the coffers of the nation every day. How on earth can 8 billion be spent for just a website? Why will this website lead one to heaven without any difficulty? As if that was not enough, the same ministry spent 150 million just on rent, just to rent an office. This is 5 times the amount used in the bus branding. After using such an amount of money to rent the office, 30 billion was spent for renovation of that same office. And okay, my God, he added, where did we go wrong? Thank you, Maxwell Akpabli from Mamobi. Hi, Peter. I think the NDC members are now awake to talk about their so-called one-sided founder. I have been saying this long time ago that Rawlings is not to be trusted. Okay, that did not actually come with a name. This one here says, Nyansafwe Mowahi, Professor Mate, Archbishop Amabakal, Rawlings Mowahi. If Ghanaians cannot judge, God will be the judge. Or say in Adenta, send that one in. Okay, quite a lot of messages here. Let me see on my Facebook the messages I have here. This one here says, okay, well, I'm sure we'll be able to correct all of that hopefully next week so that you can get to enjoy every bit of the program. Well, time is fast spent, 21 minutes past the hour 12. My name is Peter Bamfo. It's been great coming your way with Alhaji and Alhaji. And remember, this is the last in the edition of this program for the year 2017. Hopefully, we will cross over next year, this year, and then get to see see and hear from each other in 2018. The show has been live all the way in London on GFM radio, on Sekwele 104.3 FM in Ligbe, on Shine 96.9 FM in Akachi, on Lukusi radio 96.1 FM in Vergo Lokwati, on Radio Kwando 102.5 FM. On Global FM 105.1 FM all the way in Ho, and on SAPS or radioonline.com. We've also been live on Radio Silver 92.3 FM. Now, for those of you who are on Android, you have been listening to us on our tuning application, Radio Gold 90.5 FM. Many thanks to you for not being a passive listener, but of course an active listener. My name is Peter Bamfo. The sports crew hopefully will be taking over from me. It's been great coming your way. Many thanks, of course, to my panelist, Dr. David Percy. He's a student of history, and he says that is a perpetual school. That Lawyer Godwin Eduji Tamaklo is a deputy Greater Accra Regional Youth Organizer of the NDC. Comrade Murtala Mohammed is a former Deputy Minister for Trade and Industry. And of course, Elikem Kotoko, he is a member of the NDC communication team and an aspiring national youth organizer of the NDC. We have been looking at the minorities' decision to block the 6 million budget allocated to the office of the senior minister, while the Ministry for Special Development Initiatives presentation of that outrageous estimate for 2018. And of course, the brouhaha over the $100,000 presidential access fee following the Ghana Expatriate Business Awards that was organized by the Millennium Excellence Foundation here in Ghana. Merry Christmas to you. Stay out of trouble. Don't do what you wouldn't like your neighbors to find out. And I wish you God's abundant grace, abundant blessing, more peace, more prosperity as we prepare ourselves to enter the 2018. And let's also pray for our country. Let's pray that God himself will touch this nation, touch our leaders, particularly those who have decided to amass for themselves, appropriate for themselves what is not theirs, something what the good people of this country are supposed to have. They've decided to appropriate for themselves. Let us pray for those leaders as well. And many thanks to you, Kwanzaa, and to you, Mohammed Kabori, my production team. Thank you once again. My name once again is Peter Bamfo. I'm out of here.